Really fantastic, man. I love to listen to your show.
9 to Noon is brought to you by Palermo's. When you want pizza, you want Palermo's. Made right here in Wisconsin for over 55 years. Palermo's, Wisconsin's hometown pizza. Welcome to 9 to Noon.
Chaotic start, but we're ready to rock. It's a wide open Wednesday on 9 to Noon. Kuhn, Billy, and Armin reporting for duty, clocked in, ready for work on this wide open Wednesday playoff edition on 9 to Noon. Fellas, there was a lot going on here in this studio for the last 15 minutes. There was about 15 different people in here. There was a shower of money.
Walked in here like I was John Morant or James Harden looking for honey buns on the ground.
Jaws just waking up from his surgery, season-ending shoulder surgery, and Armin's going to take a stray at him 1,500 miles away. That's okay. I like that. That's a hot start. That's a hot start here.
He's not listening to me, I don't think. I'm just saying. It was like making it rain in here. Like it was, I don't know.
I guess that's what you got to do, though, when ultimately somebody pays up a bet for somebody else. Now, we'll get into Packers and Cowboys. We got a lot of fun stuff, especially revolving around these rookies and maybe the NFL just realizing the Packers are a young team battling through some adversity to try to get all the way here to the 7th seed and a trip to the Dallas Cowboys home for Sunday in Super Wildcard Weekend. But John, the quick little backstory here. Yesterday, as I almost get run over by Josh Albrecht as I'm trying to come on into the studio. What's going on, dude? Everything okay? Right? I mean, because it could have been a lot of different things yesterday, right? Snowmageddon was coming. Did it end up coming? 4 inches, I believe we ended up getting down here. That's the 4 inches.
I think we have to absolve our meteorologists a little bit. Snow did come. I mean,
it 4 inches. Yeah, it was pretty intense. Yeah. And then so in the midst here, John, I'm thinking maybe power lines down at Josh's house. He's got to buzz his way on over there, right? Who knows? Maybe even worse. I just watched Hard Knocks last night, and I could see the fear on everyone's faces in the Miami Dolphins building when Tyreek Hill had to leave practice early. God forbid. I was hoping nothing serious was happening here. Quickly, I get Zabe's going to give me $100. I need to find a salesperson in here. Probably shouldn't be that hard to find. Everyone's kind of in the building. I mean, it really wasn't the ghost town that many people thought in here yesterday. So he finds our friend April Hall, who we had talked to maybe 10 minutes beforehand.
Right away. She was grinding early on some stuff. Yeah.
Just closing sales, dude. Quarter one. Come on. Big benefits to being able to get on the books right away for quarter one, especially if you're a potential sponsor, right? I mean, be able to be in the midst of this playoff race and have your business be discussed right here on the game. Those are big things. So they're closing deals over there in Thailand. Our guy Josh runs on over there, gets the picture. Zabe owes him $100. Shockingly, John, I mean, you've played golf with Zabe. That money quickly disappeared. Right? There was no vanishing act of the money.
Oh yeah, been there.
So
been there on both sides of that occasion. Josh feverishly looking for any cheap ticket, and Zabe on a cheap ticket. Yeah, I've seen both sides of this scenario play itself out.
And then arguing with John, like, are you serious? You couldn't get us down into the lower bowl? You got us standing room only tickets? That's all we get?
Oh, gosh, I've had too many days of that, the pacing, the nervousness. But I'll say in this case, I got to defend Josh here. The bet seemed pretty cut and dry.
It seems locked in. I'm going to get $100 from you if I get this picture taken.
And Zabe produced the bill on video yesterday. I saw it on X all day yesterday. Zabe produced it, $100. Josh found it. Boom, set, match, right? Game, set, match. Boom, cut, dry.
Boom, cut, dry.
Well,
whatever that means. It's locked in. There's no money. Not going to pay. So quit asking.
Quit asking.
Now, as one of the 3 victors of the Station Guillotine League, we would wonder if there's more and more of that cash that is being withheld from our morning show. But I don't want our smart listeners across the entire I think it was mega platform that or empire that Tim Scott just alluded to and called it.
All 10 states, all 10 markets. Yeah,
I want those people to have to go on in here and pay someone else's debts. There's something kind of wrong here about our listeners having to give their smarter, hard-earned money in some kind of GoFundMe page to pay off this bill, pay off this debt. I got a little problem with that. So maybe I'll be able to work through it. But it was a chaotic couple of minutes out here in the studio. Anybody else feel that way, or am I alone on an island here thinking that it's wrong that we have listeners having to pay one of our guys' debts because we can't pay up on bets.
Yeah, I gotta say,
if we don't want to play and we don't want to pay,
who paid?
Listeners donated money. They brought in 100 singles to come on in here and give to Josh because they weren't going because he wasn't going to get
brought 100 singles in.
Well, I think that is a question. Like, why a lot of people seem to have a lot of singles laying around.
Dude,
I guess.
Well, listen, one of the very charter establishments here in the
closed.
southeastern area of Wisconsin just closed.
Yeah, that's indeed
disappointing.
They don't need them. They don't need them anymore.
So we're just giving them away. We're just giving them away because we got cheap guys working here that don't want to pay up.
Well, I mean, did Josh earn those singles from those listeners? Did he do enough? Did he shake what his mama gave him?
But it's not to me. It's not Josh. This is the issue of the person making the wager.
I know you got to
knowing they're not going to pay.
You got to
not wanting to pay.
You got to
if you don't want to play and you don't want to pay, then you can sit on the sidelines. That's okay.
And it shouldn't take
That's okay. You can be over there.
The wonderful people, the wonderful listeners. It shouldn't take them coming out and bailing out Zabe.
No,
I mean, I'm glad that
definitely not.
I'm glad that Josh got what he was owed, in my opinion. But to me, it doesn't come through because he didn't get it from Zabe. The whole point was he has to have Zabe's money in his pocket, right? And thank goodness we have, the most loyal and the most, heartwarming, in the spirit of the season, giving listeners that are willing to chip in $1 and chip in a couple dollars to pay off this wager.
Oh, see now, Tristan,
but come on, the whole point is to have what did they say in Last Dance? Why did Jordan go play in the $1 game with Paxton and Bill Wennington?
I want to know that your money is in my pocket,
and that's the whole point. And Zabe's money should have been in Josh's pocket. I don't care if it's Venmo. I don't care if it's Western Union. I don't care if it's
Barrister, boss man
card.
needs to dock Zabe's paycheck
That's right.
for the payment over to Josh.
Yeah,
how about Tristan
Wausau?
I say we start a GoFundMe page to get somebody to bust some kneecaps until he pays. Bald man needs to learn a lesson. Listen, Tristan, we appreciate it. We don't need any more GoFundMes, right? Let's focus on the GoFundMe pages for very, very important causes. This one is not too much of an important cause. You lost, you're going to pay. That's as quickly as it is. Mark, so we're just going to ignore the bet that Josh refuses to pay.
Which one's that?
I don't know.
One is
whenever he refuses to pay a bet, he will be put on blast. No doubt about it. That will quickly come by.
I didn't know there was another bet that Josh wasn't paying. Is there more to this story? Is there some nefarious activity going on?
Maybe tonight at 9, you'll be able to find out in the 97.3 The Game exclusive.
Oh boy.
Stay tuned for more of that.
Oh boy, I didn't know about that. Okay.
Just wait. Might be coming on through here.
Interesting.
We got more important things to discuss, though. We got some Packers to discuss. Talking about house money and seemingly house money that ends up getting paid out for this bet on the morning show that will have people weigh in on throughout the talk and text line 414-799-1973. Is it officially house money for the Packers rolling in to Dallas this weekend? Is it 1,000% cut and dry that there's no real loss here for the Green Bay Packers if indeed you go down to Dallas and do what the 7.5 point spread would lend itself to believing you do, which is somewhat get run away from later into the game by the Dallas Cowboys? Is it true house money to you, John, that there's nothing bad that comes from a loss here for the Green Bay Packers on Sunday?
I mean, yes, there's a great advantage to winning and going on to the next round. So to that extent, you can lose that opportunity. But the Packers are exceeding expectations for the season. They have exceeded expectations for the majority of people around this team that cover this team. So I think most people are thinking, well, if they go in there and they get a good experience under their belt and they battle and they play a close game, that pays dividends towards the future, huge dividends towards the future. And you can't shy away from that. Yes, they have already won the season, but can they win even more? Can they get greedy now? Can they fill the cup up even more than halfway and get to a spot where, man, this was a really good season. And who knows? Hey, what we talked about, there will be a 7 seed one of these years to shock the world and roll all the way to a Super Bowl and maybe even win a Super Bowl. Why can't it be the Green Bay Packers? Why couldn't they do that right now? Why can't they go on a little mini run and get past the Dallas Cowboys and get experience of what it takes to compete in the next round, the divisional round, where it ticks up a bit and you play a team off a bye?
There's a lot to it. I mean, at some point, I like your point that somebody is going to be able to do it. I don't know if this is exactly the one. However, somebody's got to be the first one, Armin.
Oh, absolutely. It's got to happen. Someone's got to happen. And this is the league to do it. I mean, anything can happen in the NFL. We've seen it every week. It's proven every week. It's hard to predict what's going to happen. There's a lot of pressure riding on the Cowboys too. I mean, they're walking in with expectations. They aren't supposed to lose at home. McCarthy's supposed to finally make a playoff run. Dak Prescott's supposed to exercise whatever playoff demons he has, and he hasn't been able to take that next step, although he's been a franchise quarterback for a while. It's reasonable to think that they're going to be feeling the pressure too. And the Packers are, as we know, the youngest team that made the playoffs in how long, and they don't know any better, right? Other than we're going to come in and try and stay on this heater that we're on and try and keep executing and keep playing well. There's a reason the Packers are heavy underdogs in this game. Heavy-ish, I guess, 7.5.
Heaviest of the weekend up against the Bills and Steelers.
There's also plenty of reason to think that the Packers could go in with that attitude and play a little bit looser and play a little bit. Now, everyone has a plan, right? What did Mike Tyson say until you get punched in the mouth, right? Everyone has that plan until you get punched in the mouth. But there's no reason to think they can't play looser and try and make some plays early and try and make the Cowboys think twice about what's supposed to happen in this game.
Jew in Milwaukee says losing in the wild card round won't dent Jay Love's first season. You will remember this season as we didn't suck and we made it to the playoffs. The Cowboys have everything to lose, and the Packers are just chilling. That's where I feel like you say the Cowboys are going to be feeling the pressure too, and unless the two is referring to the officiating crew. Like, I mean, I get that you want to come on in and put on your best performance in a playoff game. Don't get that twisted. However, I don't know where the pressure would be on Green Bay. I think even to Matt LaFleur, this is the first time he's coaching in a playoff game outside of maybe 2019's NFC title game, where they were, I think, touchdown underdogs against the 49ers. He hasn't coached in a playoff game where the pressure is not on him as the home team and the favorite to win this way. Like this is as good a house money as you can possibly go, because either way, the answer that I wanted from the season was decided probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Right. Like, so to me, whatever ends up happening into January is absolute gravy. Will I be disappointed if I'm doing a post-game show where they lose 42-10? Yeah, no doubt I'll be disappointed. Will it change the way I think of the 2023 Packers? No, I don't really see a way that changes after Sunday's game. 414-799-1973. If there are Packers fans that think differently, correct me if I'm wrong, but this can be more of a percentage thing. I feel like the teams that get hot later into the season are the ones that roll into the Super Bowl. I think it's a perfectly reasonable expectation to think that these kids could go from anywhere and find their way deep into the dance.
Well, I mean, that's sort of hindsight's 2020. The teams that make it to the Super Bowl, they are the hottest teams because they got to win 2 or 3 in a row to make it to the Super Bowl. So it doesn't necessarily compute being hot at the end of the regular season, making it to the Super Bowl. You got to be hot in the playoffs. For example, 2009 Packers, very, very hot team, lost one of their last 8 games, went into the playoffs, lost in the first round. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make it to the Super Bowl if you're hot at the end of the season. You got to be hot in the playoffs as well.
I think the way the Packers play, win or lose, is going to dictate how people feel about it as well. And I agree that the house money aspect is true to a point, because that's our macro view of it, stepping back and looking kind of outward now on a whole and saying, wow, this has already been a really good season. A playoff appearance is great. But when you're in it, when you're in the mix, you're never going to be, when you're in the mix and in the middle of a game and you're between the lines, you're never going to be happy about losing. You're never going to want to lose. The competitive side takes over. Fans the same way. No fan will feel great after losing a game, but it's the way it happens, right? If the Packers look like they're playing well and they're scoring points and they're toe-to-toe and they give the Cowboys a run, I think it feels a lot better than if you just walk in and get blown out and the game's over by halftime and they put down like a 42-13 or something like that. So I think that matters too for a lot of people and how they perceive it.
Unnamed 608, Big Mac and Dak, all the pressure. I'm feeling good going into this one.
Well, pressure versus experience, right? Cowboys might have all the pressure. The Cowboys have all the experience. The Cowboys have done this now for the 3rd year in a row. What does that pay dividends? What kind of change is there? Will they even feel the pressure? Because this is their 3rd year in a row now under Mac doing this thing.
And maybe are they feeling it even more? Like they have the experience, but does now the experiences of the years past and not being able to get past the second round, does that add more pressure for the Dallas Cowboys? Because Jerry Jones has already come out and say, we'll talk about job security after each round of the playoffs. That's kind of where it's going.
I can honestly tell you, after the first couple of years in the playoffs, we didn't really feel a whole lot of pressure in Green Bay. after 2011, 2011, we were 15-1. We felt no pressure in that game. That may have actually hurt us.
Mm-hmm. But you guys also had won something, though. The Dallas team hadn't won anything, right? I mean, like, so that's the difficult part about it as to when does the pressure go off, because you've already been able to go off in the postseason. 414-799-1973 is a true house money for your green and gold heading down to Dallas this weekend. 414-799-1973. We'll discuss that before Matt Schneidman stops by, as he always does at 10 o'clock with a green and gold happy place. We'll, as always, invest with our Coons Can't Miss. You better, you bet, look towards the playoffs at 11 as well. It's 9 to noon, starting up on the game.
Than yours, and a team much stronger than yours. Violate me, this a BOJ. We don't play, mess around with DOA. Be on your way, cause it ain't enough time here. Ain't enough.
You don't want zero problems, big fella.
Yup. If one more label try to stop me, it's gonna be some dreadhead.
9-2 on the game. Is it True House money for your Green Bay Packers rolling in on Sunday? Our boy John Kuhn will be live on the sidelines with Wayne Larrabee and Larry McCarron on the broadcast. You'll hear him and them starting it up at 1 o'clock. That's when our network coverage with Dennis Krause and Mike Heller fires on up. James Jones, Wes Hodkowitz will be cooking up something as well down there from AT&T Stadium. You're not going to want to miss that on Packers Preview.
Wes.
I love it, dude. What's Cooking with Wes is my favorite. All due respect to you guys, Open. My favorite part of that show. Because Wes.
I love Wes.
That boy is sitting back in the lab cooking up something good, waiting for it. And then, the game will play itself out. And however it does play out, Drew Olson and I will react with all of you on Packers OT. We're your home for Packers football, and we're home for playoff football coming up this weekend. 97.3 The Game. We have some breaking news in the NFL. And they have officially broken the Chicago Bears. Luke Getsy has been fired by the Bears this morning after internal meetings over the last couple of days. Ian Rappaport just a minute ago put it on out. They have also fired quarterback coach Andrew Janocko. Getsy and Janocko out. Also, other members of the offensive staff expected to be relieved of their duties. They were already going without a running backs coach who was fired. I don't know if that was the incognito tab issue or if that was Alan Williams, the defensive coordinator.
That might have been different. Yeah.
Listen, they were struggling with a lot of things down at Hallis Hall this year. Offense being one of the biggest issues for the Bears in 2023. And they have fired former Packers quarterbacks coach. He was never offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy here, right? He was just the OC for those 2019-2020 Packers teams. Also was the OC down at Mississippi State before he came back to the Green Bay Packers. So Getsy gone in Chicago. So how long until he joins Nathaniel Hackett's staff out in New York? I got the over under on 14 days.
Have they shifted their staff around?
Yeah, they talked about they're going to move some things around. However, the two coordinators are not going to move there in New York. Aaron Rodgers likes Luke Getsy. I imagine that they potentially might find him some kind of spot there on that roster.
I think a lot of Bears fans are happy about this, in that the ones that
fired up about this, yes,
have been kind of targeting Getsy as one of the main culprits to their failures this year on offense. Whether or not that's totally fair, I guess that is something. There might be something to it. They're out now. I'm surprised it took until Wednesday, but this also would mean, right, that everybody else is safe. Doesn't that imply everybody else is safe?
You would think
that's the way I look at it.
You would think this means that Eberflus is for sure safe. There's just more and more reporting coming out of Chris Emma of 670 The Score, just confirming the report. Moves out of Hallis Hall after 2 days. A lot more to unpack here. The thing that I would unpack with it is this almost feels as if it would either be a new offensive coordinator for either Justin Fields or a rookie quarterback, right? Like you could try to align it either way, but the brass tacks was they were just not good enough offensively. So they were going to need something different. And Chase Daniel, former Bears quarterback, just threw his name into the ring, said, "Hey, I'm available." I mean, he's doing a podcast now, Armin, so he can be the offensive coordinator.
Of course he is.
Be the quarterback's coach. Why not?
Who isn't doing a podcast these days?
Mostly everybody is.
I mean, of course Chase Daniel's doing a podcast. What is it called? The Backup with Chase Daniel? I'm sorry.
What's
the
been
money
going
man with Chase Daniel?
What's been going with the Three Amigos? How's that been going?
We don't do that anymore.
That's been dead for a while.
We retired it. But it's a good run.
That's sad.
I just think it had a nice run, and it's done now.
Okay, it's ran its course.
It's done now.
It's ran its course. It's hard to schedule everyone for these podcasts too. That's another factor too.
Well, that's why it's even better to just set your schedule to it that 9-2 starts at 9 and goes until noon. But new for your listening and viewing pleasure, you can check us out on YouTube. Also, X today, up live on X. You can check us out right there. Thanks to Palermo's for our video stream right here, presenting the video stream on 9-2Noon. So you can not only enjoy us throughout the day on terrestrial airwaves, but if you're sitting at your desk headed on into work, you got a dual screen action. Go and throw that bad boy right into a corner spot, put it there down, and enjoy the rest of the show. And you can be able to check it out. And my favorite part, it's one of the things that I always promo when we are live in person. get to see what Armin Sarian looks like, which is
Appreciate
worth
that.
it. Even so, that's enough, I think, for most fans to be dialed on into the video stream here.
Comb my hair now. Yeah, no, I do appreciate that. Thank you very much.
414-799-1973 JR in the hub. Hell yeah, there's pressure on the Green Bay Packers. There's what, an 8-game winning streak against Dallas on the line? I don't know about you, but I don't want to take that foot off their throat. It is an interesting part of this back and forth rivalry with the Dallas Cowboys that Favre couldn't beat Dallas in the postseason in Dallas. Rodgers seemingly couldn't lose to Dallas in the postseason,
good point.
whether at home or on the road. So it generally will change with each individual quarterback walking on in here. So Jordan Love gets his chance to write his first part of the Packers and Cowboys rivalry, which is a pretty good one for the NFL if you start dating it back all the way through.
Yeah, I think tied for the most meetings in the playoffs, along with the Packers and the 49ers. That one, I believe, also is 8 times in the playoffs, and there's a couple others that have reached that. But when you have two franchises that are very successful over the course of the history of the NFL, and they meet multiple times in the playoffs, you know what it's like for the Packers and 49ers. It's tough. It's tough. And we feel like, hey, how'd that one start? That one started with the Packers couldn't lose to the 49ers. Now it's the Packers can't beat the 49ers.
Yep.
And it's flip-flopped the other way around for the Packers and Cowboys. Yeah, you mentioned it, Billy. Favre against the Cowboys, Rodgers against the Cowboys. In fact, the Packers have won 9 out of their last 10 games combined overall against the Dallas Cowboys. So you got that one riding into this one too. But these are different teams. These are somewhat different coaching staffs. And, Matt LaFleur has faced Mike McCarthy one time, got him at home last year, got that big victory. So we'll see how this plays in. But I think it's fascinating. Well, Packers with house money. What does the pressure do? Like you said, teams that play with pressure or don't play with pressure. And I mean, I think teams that have this proverbial pressure, it depends on what kind of experience they have. The Cowboys have an immense amount of experience. I don't think they're going to be fielding the pressure from that end. But what pressure does do when you don't have pressure on the other side, and I said this going into the Bears game, the Bears not having the pressure in this past game, the Packers having the quote unquote pressure, how would that play a part? Well, the Bears don't have anything to lose. They can go for it on 4th and 3 without any ramifications. They can throw a reverse flea flicker in there into the game plan. They can kick an onside kick in the middle of the game if they choose to. They can do those types of things. That's an edge that the Packers will have. They'll have that unpredictability against the Cowboys down there because the Cowboys, like you said, if there is playing with pressure, it's the pressure to make a gamble. It's the pressure to make a gutsy call at a time when analytics might say one thing and your gut tells you another. It's how do you play into those instances? That's the only way that I think pressure really plays a part in this football game.
And does it happen on an individual player basis too? And how would that affect the larger game? And is that just some nerves when you walk into the game, but does that settle in after a quarter or so? I mean, I think sometimes you do see games where like momentum or adrenaline will get an underdog fired up or a home crowd fired up or a home team with the first few series, but those things can settle in. And then it's just going to be about what adjustments coaches can make, right? So when you really get into the game, it's going to be about that as well. So I think over 60 minutes, the team playing better that day will be the winner, or at least will have a shot to win, a better shot to win. And I think that's probably how it'll work out. But it is interesting to think how the psychology of both will work out. It's also like the Cowboys are at home, for instance, right? So they have to feel confidence being at home because they're so good. But then would they feel, on the flip side, would they feel pressure to maintain that, knowing they're supposed to be good at home, knowing people are expecting them to win? Well, you're at home, you're in Dallas, you should just walk out and win this game. Well, it's not that easy.
Not only the expectation is to win, though, guys, that the expectation is bigger for the Cowboys, right? Like there's very little, I think, victory here outside of the advancement into the next round, knowing obviously that you get another home game, getting yourself to the divisional round, the spot that you were last year when they had to go to San Francisco and get beat in the 2-3 game. Nobody is talking about getting to the playoffs for the Dallas Cowboys. They're talking about getting to the NFC title game for the first time in almost 30 years, since 95. So like, as much as the experience of going to the playoffs can help you, Mike McCarthy has coached in way more playoff games than Matt LaFleur has. No doubt that should help you. But the Result if you lose is I think the bigger part here. And John touched on it with how you're coaching, what you're calling, what moves are you going to push the aggressive dial more than maybe let's play it safe and let this game continue to play itself on out. I almost wonder if you can coach under more pressure, if it can affect you that way, calling a game more than you necessarily playing in a game. Because once you're in between the white lines, whatever anybody said throughout the week, I imagine goes out your head pretty quickly because you have 30 seconds to process a play call,
right.
get yourself lined up and go. Whereas there's some big ramifications here. I've said it a couple of times. McCarthy loses this game, he's fired, right? Like I don't think that's very debatable in Dallas going 3 straight 12-win seasons. And they think that they have a hot coaching candidate on their staff already with Dan Quinn. So like from that side of it, it's solely over there. Matt LaFleur has had years where he goes into the playoffs saying, man, we don't win it this year. Are we going to get another chance? Are we going to get another chance? That's where the pressure has been for the Green Bay Packers before. This one, a little different for the Dallas Cowboys heading on down there. 414-799-1973. We'll discuss a little bit more on this. However, the NFL Network might just be learning this Packer team's good. Also just learning that this team is young. They're young. They got a lot of youth on the team.
They just got that?
Just got the memo now, thanks to the NFL and NFL Network. We'll discuss and fill you in exactly why and how next. It's 9 to noon on the
Pressure pushing down on me, pressing down on you. No man has fallen under pressure.
Noon, one name synonymous with fantastic frozen pizza. Palermo's, made right here in Wisconsin. Almost 60 years from their new and improved flavors, rising crust pizzas. They're guilt-free, primo thin pies. Find them in your grocer's frozen food aisle. Palermo's flavor is our family's business.
Sounds like an idea for that holiday potluck today, Billy. Right?
Yeah. So walk in today, and one of the first days in probably 486 working here at iHeart, I actually brought a lunch.
Let's hear it for Billy first on that one.
Hey,
way to go.
New year, new me.
Way to remember Billy.
Yep, new year, new me.
Yeah.
Put that bad boy in the fridge, then realized
What'd you pack in that thing?
a little leftover chicken pot pie.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's how you and Armin. That's why he packed, because it was already stored in a
Kidding?
Tupperware container in the fridge. Did you put it in a brown paper bag or just bring in the Tupperware?
Oh, just the Tupperware. But now
There you go.
you got to give me a
Solid.
little bit more credit here. It was still in the regular pan that it was cooked in, so I had to scoop it out and then put it into
In the container.
into the container.
Attaboy.
So
wow. How about that?
felt pretty accomplished this morning going on here, and then slid it on into the fridge, and boom, see like 3 different trays of salads and different things that everyone brought on in. Like the one day I bring it in, there's free food,
Yeah,
which
I
is
know.
every human being that works in radio's favorite thing.
It's the only thing that keeps
The
you
only
going.
thing that keeps people going in this business is free food. Because if you ever want to see a herd of humans run like starving lions in the wilderness,
Definitely. I mean,
tell
that's
them there's free food in the break room.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
it's salivating like they have not seen meat in months.
You know that meme of all the penguins that waddle in the same direction? They're all running, or that the Super Bowl meme
Yep.
of all the people running. That's basically what it is. There's free food.
There's free food. Oh,
Yeah.
free food.
Yes,
And
you
then
get it.
one crew walks on out, and then every studio empties on out, and then you converge right there in the hallway
Mhm.
with all the salespeople, and then just boom. Now we're waiting here for 45 more minutes. More news coming out of Chicago. Adam Schefter says after extensive meetings Monday and Tuesday, the Bears are not making a head coaching change. So that has been confirmed that Matt Eberflus is officially returning to the Bears in 2024. If you were just wondering for certain things like this, he is 0-4 in his trips to against the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
Has not beaten Green Bay, nor has Justin Fields, which will be their big decision here. If indeed they run it back now, this would be the 3rd consecutive time that they have had a first-year coordinator, offensive coordinator, with a new quarterback under an old head coach, right? So like they have not been in sync, in unison, with Fox getting Trubisky. Same deal with Fields going on over and the previous individual, Matt Nagy, getting fired.
Nagy, yeah.
And he was still kind of left on over from the Trubisky era. Didn't necessarily love that situation. Like it's a weird alignment that they go with there in Chicago, but I'm really glad that they have, because it's proven out to be very effective for the Green Bay Packers, and they are going to continue it. They will not be in the running for their former quarterback Jim Harbaugh's coaching services this year in the NFL. Let's go 414-799-1973. Taylor is in Oconomowoc, wants to join 9 to Noon. He's on right now. Taylor, what's on your mind, man?
What's going on, guys? Good morning.
Good morning, brother.
Hey, if we're going to talk about the Chicago Bears really quickly, I mean, is that even a rivalry anymore? We look at the last 30 years. How many games have they won? I mean, come
15.
on. At this point, it's the Vikings versus the Packers rivalry. But anyways, we're going to go down to Dallas. Mike McCarthy's puckered up right now. That dude's scared right now. I'm feeling the love from Jordan. We're going to go down there. We're going to win that game, and we'll deal with the second round when it comes.
I like that.
Let's go.
I like that thought. There we go. The pucker factor, as Taylor says, very high down there in Dallas for Coach Mike and company. There's a ton riding on this game for Dallas, because this is not the game they care about being in, right? Like there were many years that Packers fans felt this same way about the first round, John, when the only goal or the only thought was Super Bowl or bust. It's like the only bad things happen in the first round for teams that think that they should and can go to the Super Bowl, because of young teams like this that go on in here and mess up someone's January. I'm a big fan of that.
I think a lot of teams think they're going to the Super Bowl. You have to have that type of alpha, that type of self-confidence going into the playoffs to make a run. And 49ers definitely feel like they're going to the Super Bowl, right? They feel it. It's palpable. Half the people that cover the league think that the 49ers are going to make the Super Bowl. Then you got to think the Cowboys feel right there. They feel like they're in that spot as well, especially being the 2 seed this year. And then you got, hey, do you think the Rams have any self-confidence issues? I sure as heck don't. I mean, I watch the Rams and I think to myself right now, yeah, they're looking at potentially playing the 49ers in the next round, and they're thinking about how do we go beat them too, in addition to going in and beating the Lions. The Rams got to be feeling high right now, getting the Lions as a draw after Sam Laporta gets hurt, going back to, the Motor City with Matthew Stafford at the helm. I mean, that's a fascinating game as well. Who do you think feels the most pressure in that one? I mean, the Lions have never been there. Well, not for 30 years, hosting a playoff game. Do they feel pressure?
Oh, the pucker factor is solely on the Lions in that one, I think.
Well, really? Because you told me that the pucker factor's on the Cowboys because they've been there, done that, and the Packers have none. The Lions right now, this is the first time they're there. This is the first time they've hosted a playoff game. Is the pressure really on them? I mean, the Rams
they're
are
the favorite.
But the Rams are 2 years removed from winning a Super Bowl.
And the national narrative about the Rams this year, where people thought they were going to be tanking. People thought they were going to be packing it on in and rolling. I mean, they absolutely have something to prove. But, I mean, when you talk about internal pressure, it's not only just on the Cowboys, John, because they've been there the last 3 years. It's on the Cowboys because of who their owner is. It's on the Cowboys because of what the process always is in Dallas. They're the most discussed team in the league. They're the most recognizable brand probably in the league. And for the last 30 years, they don't have the success that matches the amount of cachet that comes with the Dallas Cowboys. So that's where the pressure always ends up being in these matchups. And I think generally it comes to the home team. Like, I get your thought with the Rams and the Lions. You check that fan base and tell me if there's any confidence for the Detroit Lions with Matthew Stafford coming in. Like, that is straight fear for the Detroit Lions with the Rams rolling on into town. That to me lends itself to the pressure side.
But I think it's validated fear too. It's educated fear. They're playing a team 2 years removed from a Super Bowl victory. They still have Cooper Kupp, and now Puka Nacua is looking like he's the next big thing. And Sean McVay sitting over there, Aaron Donald. I mean, they still have enough firepower to scare you, especially coming in with your team looking wounded with injuries and looking wounded with how you kind of limped into the playoffs somewhat.
Don't you think, I think if you're a Lions fan too, you're nervous because this year we were the revelation. Like we were coming in, we were the revelation. We're turning this
everyone's
around.
favorite thing.
We finally won a division. We finally turned around
year.
with Campbell. But if you lose in the first round, it's like, then what? It's like, when are we ever going to win a playoff game?
Same old Lions.
They haven't won a playoff game in 33 years, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think 91, unless I'm missing one somewhere. So they want to win a playoff game too, and there's pressure on them to do that as well. And it's like, well, if not now, when? Okay, yeah, we keep rolling with Campbell, obviously, but he has something to prove. I mean, listen, this is the NFL. Everyone has something to prove, right? Brenton Franklin, of course, Lions fan, good friend of ours, a Nooner, says, are you guys discounting? I think you're discounting the chip on Goff's shoulder because McVay didn't want him as quarterback. There might be something there too.
Oh, sure,
but
yeah.
In that theory, there could be a chip on Matt Stafford's shoulder.
I think there's a bag of chips.
There's a bag of chips everywhere. So what?
Goff absolutely has something to prove in this game, no doubt about it. I mean, like that he got thrown out after they lose to that Super Bowl to New England, and he was kind of the scapegoat as to why. And one of the big reasons why Sean McVay felt like they were not going to be able to get over that hump was Jared Goff. Now, granted, he also then had, I think, a broken thumb that he ended up playing in a playoff game with the next year and got them a win on the road against Seattle, which gave him a little bit more credit to it. But yeah, there's a lot to it. How about one of our Cowboy fans in here, Drew in Greenfield? Hate to break it to y'all. Next round ain't this year, fellas. Let me just say to all these cheeseheads that are more delusional than Aaron Rodgers in a darkness retreat, y'all had a good year. I mean, barely over 500, but hey, y'all made it. 17 points ain't cutting it down here in Dallas. And I don't care about past history because it doesn't matter today. I'll be waiting Monday for everybody to go to their bag of excuses to use one of the fact that you guys are young and need the experience that's out the window. You're in the playoffs, and y'all Packers fans better come up with a better excuse come Monday morning. Just know this season has proven Packers fans are just like every other bandwagon fan base, hopping on and off the ride as it goes, and that's fine. Don't call out another fan base when you guys stoop to the same levels when you're losing and disappear.
I knew we were going to hear from Drew at some point this week, John. I didn't know when it was going to be. I had the song ready for him. I didn't know he was going to come scorched earth at Packer fans.
Yeah, I'm surprised the scorched earth of Packer fans, because Drew actually brings up a good point, right? The youth of this Packers team, how will it react in the playoffs? And it's reacted quite favorably here towards the end of the season when so many guys have been thrust into the playing roles. But how you act in the playoffs is something that also is innate and learned. The guys that have it, Jaden Reed, I believe he's going to come out like a full-blown boss in this football game and be just fine. How will the other guys react? There's a lot to say about experience as well as you roll into the playoffs. And we might come out of this game saying it's a good thing we got to play that game because now we have the experience going into next year.
Absolutely. I think there's something to that. No doubt about it. I don't understand the bandwagon talk from Drew, though. I'm a little disappointed, Drew, on that. When were Packer fans ever off the bandwagon on this team?
Were you not listening at 2-5 and 3-6?
Did you listen midway through the season, Armin, when everybody wanted to tank and get better picks?
Okay, they weren't off the bandwagon, though. That didn't mean they were just like we're giving up on these guys. Maybe we're like giving up on the season.
That's not giving up on this 2023 version of the they're not giving up on their fandom. They're not turning in their Packer card, but they maybe have given up on the 2023 version of this.
I get your point. Yes, Billy as well. Like maybe that is one way to look at a bandwagon group. I mean, a lot of fans didn't really think this team could turn it around, but I don't know. I just don't think that's totally accurate. I mean, I think there's plenty of fans that were always going to be ride or die with this team, even if they were losing some games. But
Armin, how many times did you pick the Packers to lose this year? Maybe 2?
Not many. No, I felt good. I felt pretty good about them.
I seriously think twice.
Although to be fair, I said 7-10 before the season.
Sure, you said 7-10 before the season, but it's funny you had them at 15-2.
Mm-hmm. Well, I did
your picks.
Well, I adjusted expectations based on what I saw. But does that mean like for instance, that mean I was off a bandwagon just because I picked them to be a losing team this year?
No, I think off the bandwagon is guys that said, "Wow,
Right.
it doesn't really matter. They're just in this for the next year." Well, we got to get rid of this coaching staff because they can't figure it out.
And I will say this: the people that were talking about, oh, we're going to get the number 1 pick. See, I didn't believe in any of that. The Packers were struggling early in the year, but I said, there's plays to be made if they stop making mistakes, and they started making them. So
maybe not the first pick. They were close to a top 5.
I mean,
they were quite close.
But I mean,
to a top 5 pick.
I remember the question was, when does the conversation start about getting the top pick? I'm like, it doesn't exist. They're first of all way away from that. They're not going to be that bad at all. Like it was ridiculous.
We had the conversation when they had a 1.7% chance of getting the first overall
exactly,
pick.
which is not a this is nothing. 1.7.
I think it was more about a top 5 pick, but Armin's got it more as the number 1 pick. How about this one? Brad Biggs covers the Chicago Bears for the Chicago Tribune. 2 offensive coordinators have lasted more than 2 seasons in the last 25 years for the Chicago Bears. Ron Turner, 2005 to 2009, and John Shoup from 2001 to 2003. Their next hire will be the 13th OC in 26 seasons of Bears football. That is a beautiful thing. As a Packer fan, you're not going to want to go anywhere as a Packer fan. Match Nyman right around the corner, 9 to noon, hour 2 next on the game.
Billboard, baby, do a leap and make them dance when they come on. Everybody looking for a dance floor to run on.
If you wanna run away with me, I know a galaxy and I could take you for a ride. I had a premonition.
Match time and join the program in just one quick second. More news out of Chicago. They've also now added in Tyke Tolbert, wide receivers coach. So make that 3 offensive assistants, offensive coordinator Luke Getzey, quarterbacks coach Andrew Janoko, and wide receivers coach Tyke Tolbert, all relieved of their duties. If you're wondering, well, man, why aren't they firing the running backs coach? Don't worry about that. He stepped down back week 9 for some nefarious issues potentially going on there, or that was only Alan Williams. Listen,
that might have been Alan
Williams. They got a lot of stuff going on there in Chicago. A lot of stuff going on with the staff. Now, maybe some would say, doesn't the head coach hire those assistants? Shouldn't that kind of fall at his lap if you got one guy getting investigated by the FBI during the year? Maybe, maybe not. We'll figure that out. Matt Eberflus will be back with the Chicago Bears. Match Nyman is always back on, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Not Saturday, not Sunday, because he's working on Sunday. But whenever we're on 9 to noon during the football season, Match Nyman is on courtesy of Happy Place Hemp and happyplacehemp.com, where you go and find all your best hemp products. CBD, CBN gummies, Delta 8, Delta 9 recreational gummies, as well as muscle creams, tinctures. They also have pet products, things for your pooch to make sure that they can calm themselves down when, listen, not a whole lot of fireworks getting lit on off here, but this snow's quite heavy. If there's some fireworks thanks to some power lines going down and some crackling gets the pooch scared, can help them on out there as well. Go talk to Rob and Chris, happyplacehemp.com. Relax, RELAX, gets you 25% off locally and legally made hemp products here in Wisconsin. Matt, appreciate it as always, dude. We'll start just a little bit south before we get into this Packers Cowboys game here. I know you guys have a lot of reporters down there in Chicago. Don't expect you to have a ton of sources here, but for the Luke Getzey part of the equation, he's obviously a name that Packers fans are familiar with. No, I put the over under at 14 days before he joins the New York Football Jets staff. What would you be on that investment, on that wager? Or do you think he's going to go try to do something else somewhere away from Aaron Rodgers?
What would be his role on the Jets staff, do you think?
Quality control coach, somewhat offensive assistant.
Yeah, something like that. One of quality control is always the position you can
find him a spot. Find him.
I don't think you're going to go from offensive coordinator to quality control. I don't know if there's going to be some quarterback coach openings around the league, if he's going to take a step down. I would
wide receiver coach. He's done.
Yeah, exactly. People forget he was the wide receiver coach here in Green Bay before he coached quarterbacks in OC. Or no, he wasn't the offensive coordinator before he was the quarterbacks coach. Devontae Adams, I remember when he was in Green Bay, he singled out Luke Getzey for being a big part of his development, obviously being his position coach early in his career. So there will be a position coach opening for him. Potentially. If not, senior offensive assistant is always a good place to land. And why not?
Oh, that's a good one. Senior offensive assistant. I like that. Offensive analyst. That's what they threw Paul Chris down there in Texas under. Offensive analyst as he walked off at the Sugar Bowl down into the Texas locker room. All right, let's talk more about this one coming on up here because there's a former Packers coach with, I think, a lot of pressure on them down there being the Dallas Cowboys in Mike McCarthy, former Packers coach that's coaching in this game. Yeah. I think there's an immense pressure in Dallas on them. If they lose, I've said it a couple of times, Matt, I think he's out. Now, I don't know if that means that they're going to go straight over to Dan Quinn. Maybe there's a person in New England that potentially could be out that they'd be interested. Somebody from the University of Michigan that they'd be interested in. Jerry Jones is always thinking. He said, yeah, we'll talk about jobs and stuff, each individual round of the playoffs. So I think he's squarely on the hot seat and all the pressure rolls in on Dallas. We asked if it's just sheer house money for the Packers going in to Dallas on Sunday. Where would you stand on that?
Yeah, I think it is. I think, if they had lost to the Bears, fans and the team could have taken solace in the fact that, yes, they found their franchise quarterback, but still they didn't make the playoffs. They lost to the Bears to get knocked out. But now they're in the playoffs. Making the playoffs with this team, resounding success. Anything from here on out is a bonus. And I think they're definitely playing with house money, which maybe could play to their advantage if they say, oh, all right, we got nothing to lose. I don't know if that really changes anything on the field, but, I thought it was interesting, John's answer to this on our podcast this week when I said if he thinks, or I asked if he thinks McCarthy's, any more puckered up this week. And he basically said no. If anything, it'll, make him coach better, even though he is calling offensive plays. I think I don't know what's going on down in Dallas, but I'm sure that there is a chance he loses his job if he loses to the Packers and the Cowboys have another playoff run end early after a successful regular season. But I don't know. John's point was he thinks, maybe that was more of a thing last season, the first time they played. Is that right?
Yeah, my whole thing is there's two types of pressures here. There's the external pressure and there's the internal pressure placed upon yourself. I don't think the Cowboys, who have been there, done that in the playoffs already, feel internal pressure. There might be external pressure. There might be pressure as an ownership to win in Dallas, and that might be a pressure that McCarthy feels to win the football game. But as far as he creates a game plan and goes into diving into the nuances on what makes an offense successful, I mean, you mean to tell me the team that didn't relieve you of your duties 4 days or 4 games before the end of the season isn't going to motivate you already? A team that you went to face for the first time at Lambeau last year and lost and threw your headset down and discussed a couple of times throughout the game. You think you're not going to be motivated to get that one, to try and create the best game plan you can? So I don't think the pressure internally is going to be felt much by the Cowboys. There's going to be a lot of what we say, analysts say, national analysts, local, writers and radio guys like us are going to say about this game. Conversely, I think the Packers are going to have no external pressures because they have exceeded most of our expectations for a season. And if they go down to Dallas and lose, we'll say, hey, incredibly successful season and what a way to get some experience in the playoffs. But if they don't win, we're not going to hold them to the fire on this one. Internally, I think the Packers will have more pressure because they won't have guys that have been there. How do they handle that pressure? When you step into a ball game that you've never played before, the NFL playoffs, which the Packers are going to have a lot of players doing this week, they're going to feel the energy. They're going to feel the difference. They're going to feel what type of atmosphere that is. And how do they react to that? That pressure only lasts for about the first drive. And then you start reeling off just what you learned.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because Matt LaFleur and others have said, the last 3 games for the Packers were playoff games. So they've gotten used to that pressure. Now, the environment is a completely different thing. The environment in Carolina for their first quote-unquote playoff game is nothing compared to what it's going to be like in Arlington on Sunday.
Half the stadium filled, 80% Packer fans.
Exactly. And, I mean, Minnesota is a fantastic environment. Lambeau's obviously a fantastic environment. So that's probably closer to what it will be down in Arlington this Sunday, but the pressure is kind of the same. It's win or go home, essentially. Now, the fact that this is actually the playoffs will obviously carry some higher stakes, and it'll probably feel a little different. But, man, if this young Packers team has gotten through the last 3 weeks without much of a hiccup, I don't think this moment will be too big for them.
The difference is that the last couple of weeks, they're playing teams that, Minnesota had something to lose, but don't necessarily have something to lose like the Packers did. I said last week when people said this is a playoff game, it's a playoff game in the sense that if the Packers win, they move on. If they don't, they don't. Not a sense of the Bears on the other side. They didn't have to, they didn't have anything to risk. They didn't have anything to lose. They were already not going to the playoffs, and they could have emptied a bag of things going into this game. You look at this is different against the Cowboys. Right? Externally, the pressure is Cowboys need to get past this one. They're expected to get past this one. The Packers aren't. That makes making game time decisions, adjustments, trick plays, deceptives, dare I say an onside kick. How many times do you think Matt LaFleur goes to something unscouted or something kind of a trick play version down there in Dallas?
You're going to have to if you want to get up in a game like this or win a game like this. In Detroit, they had that defensive takeaway and ensuing fumble return for a touchdown on their side. You got to have something out of the ordinary. I don't think the Packers are going to be able to win this game if they just go standard, offense, defense. I don't know if it's via a fake punt or going forward on 4th and 4 from, just inside your own territory or a flea flicker on the first drive. Like, they're going to have to pull out something to really try and shift the tone of this game, shift the tenor, quiet this crowd. I'm assuming there are going to be plenty of Packer fans there, but they're going to have to do something unorthodox.
Can we
I
not run
assume-
that double flea flicker where Jordan Love almost lost both sides of his groin?
Well, we're on turf this week.
The
He's not
groin
going to slip.
stretch.
He's
Well,
going
that
to
was just a double pass, and they have to make sure they have the right running back throwing the pass back
let's-
across the formation.
Yeah, but
Let's burn that play. Throw that one in the back.
They're going to use some gadget. I mean, look, first of all, Matt LaFleur loves gadget plays. He's been doing them all year, whether or not they work. You have to think at this point he's going to do
But
one
Armin,
too.
he hasn't been doing them as much as of late.
Is that
right?
because of Watson also not being in? Because
No,
I feel like
it's because he believes in this offense and he believes in Jordan Love.
I
He
get it,
believes in their
right.
ability to move the football without the trick plays. Matt, we've seen Matt LaFleur take the ball twice this year, completely out of his norm on the coin toss, both on the road, both versus divisional opponents in big time games. Does Matt LaFleur, if he wins a coin toss, accept the ball and go for a shot early?
I think yes. I don't know if he goes for a shot because the probability that you hit 2 of those after taking the ball is kind of low, but I would anticipate that they take the ball because, as I've said already this week on this show, follow that script of the Detroit game as much as you can. Obviously, you can only control so much, whether you get a takeaway and return it for a touchdown, but you got to throw the first punch in this game. You can't get behind 7-0. You can't get into a situation where after the game you're saying, well, we would have run the ball more, but we were down too much. Like, you got to run the ball against the Cowboys, establish the run with Aaron Jones, so Micah Parsons can't just pin his ears back. You got to get into, not third downs or third and shorts, so that pass rush can't just pin their ears back. Take the ball, make the first statement. Sure, it could end up like it did, what was it? The Vikings game where they received and they go 3 and out. That's the downside of it. Not everything is going to work, but I think you got to hope that it works out like the Detroit game and you're up 7-0 and that Dallas crowd is like, okay, this is a serious game here.
Do you think they can get similar pressure on Prescott like they did in the Detroit game? Obviously, 2 very different quarterbacks, 2 pretty well-regarded offensive lines. I think Dallas is aging a little bit more than Detroit's is youthful. Do you think they can get some of the same pressure on Prescott? Because he is a very different quarterback once he gets heated up. He's been playing the best ball of his career probably this year, but that could be a major ticket to it as well.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the pass block win rate stats from ESPN Analytics right now. While the Packers ranked 2nd in the NFL with a 69%. Oh, there's ice falling off my apartment building.
Hey, that's all good.
It's not the jacket.
Everything all right? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Packers ranked
Avalanche.
Packers ranked 2nd in the NFL in pass block win rate during the regular season. The Cowboys ranked 16th. So there will be some opportunities there to pressure Dak Prescott if he holds on to the ball. I apologize for not seeing who tweeted this, but I think Prescott's average time to release is quicker than the Packers' average time to pressure. So they got to get home quick. And there are going to be some opportunities because the Cowboys didn't rank in the top half of the league. Well, I guess they did rank in the top half of the league. 16th is the top half technically because 16 is the top half, but they're mediocre in terms of
1 point.
They just barely stepped over that line.
Just barely in terms of protecting Dak Prescott. So there are going to be some opportunities. Now would be a great time for Rashawn Gary to get a couple more of those sacks that haven't come up in the past couple weeks.
I was just going to say that. And the Packers did get great pressure, obviously, this last week against the Bears. So maybe they can keep that heater going from all directions, A-gap and everywhere else. But it would be a great time for guys like Rashawn Gary, the guys you pay, to have amazing games, wouldn't it? I mean, no doubt about it. In general, this defense is a Jekyll and Hyde defense. They've played well the last couple of weeks. There's also a lot of weeks they haven't played well. So it's hard to predict, isn't it, Matt? Like what defense you're going to get when especially against an offense like this in their home stadium. That's pretty, prolific.
Yeah, we have no idea what to expect. And that's the beauty and more so the curse of watching this Packers defense, and especially for fans. But I'll be interested to see how they match up against CeeDee Lamb. Are they going to just play sides with the Packers corners because the Cowboys have enough weapons at wide receiver to, make it worthy for the Packers to play sides? Or do they think CeeDee Lamb is really the main threat? And do they maybe shadow him a little bit with 23? So I'll be interested to see that. Will Joe Barry keep bringing kind of similar pressure looks / the Packers getting home with 4 when they do only bring 4, as they have been the last 2 weeks? As I said, 9 sacks the last 2 games. 9 different guys are on the sack sheet with at least half a sack. They're going to need kind of a similar effort. Keyshawn Nixon's made some nice plays coming up from the second tier the last couple weeks. I don't know if the Packers kind of bring those similar looks, because Dak Prescott is more equipped to slice and dice in the passing game than either of the last 3 quarterbacks I guess the Packers have faced in the last 2 games, but we'll see.
Where does everybody stand on the half a sack as a stat? If for some reason that's been going viral the last 2 weeks on social media, is people all up in arms that half a sack is considered a sack, and that every half a sack should be considered a full sack for people. They're adding up these half the sacks as if they're a sack and saying, this is the real sack leader here, this is the real sack leader there. Where do you guys stand on half a sack versus a sack?
Well, I think it's always been correct. I think it's always been fine. I think it's their best way to accurately describe what happened in the play. You can't give multiple guys sacks in the same play. Like, there can't be 4 sacks in the same play. So you can't give everybody a sack. So half a sack is there. This has been the way it's always been. They've always measured half a sack. I think it's a good way to look at it.
What if 3 people hit the quarterback at the same time?
I'll say this. I've always thought, why a half? Why can't we go down to quarter sacks and stuff like that? I have no problem with that.
Because at a half, we can add up a sack and a half.
Yeah,
on a play that only had a sack.
And it's always like, I guess it's a judgment call. It's tough for sports books, because if you're going to make like 1.5 the line, you could push it a half. That's the only thing you could push it a half. You can't get a half a yard. You can't get a half of, I don't know, you can't get a half a field goal or half a touchdown. You can get a half a sack, though. I'm okay with it, though, because you have to accurately describe what happened on the play and give the accurate credit to somebody. So I don't know.
Billy has turned Darman into a full-blown degenerate now, talking about half a sack.
I don't like sacks at all.
We lost John.
I don't like sacks at all. Yeah. So I'm pretty indifferent on this conversation, because sacks are always a bad thing. Depending on whoever gets them, however many guys get them, they're just not that fun.
Well, Billy, that's an O-line coach for a high school team speaking right there.
Yeah, we don't need any of them.
Keep
them all on.
Don't you love when
assistant? I appreciate it. Don't give me too much credit there.
I do love when certain things trend or become like big. It's like TikTok now. Like they only realize it because they're 18-year-olds on Twitter that haven't watched football before the last few years. Haven't watched basketball.
Billy hates
don't know
sacks.
their history.
Billy, what's your favorite stat from football?
Touchdowns.
Okay.
Yeah, touchdowns.
Armin, yours. I thought he was going to say pancakes too. That's what I thought he was going.
I don't know. My favorite stat, DVOA.
Yep. No. Very analytical. Mine's hidden yardage. Mine is hidden yardage.
Hidden yardage.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of, give the people an example of hidden yardage.
Hidden yardage. You take the ball at your own 25. You get a first down. You punt from the 35, and you pin them at their 20. And they go 3 and out, and then they punt the ball back to you, and you start at your 40. You have now gained 5 yards of hidden yardage.
Okay. I like that.
How about passes defense? I always thought that was a weird one.
I've become a fan of EPA per rush, because I know yards per rush is thrown around a lot. But as I've said, 3rd and 1, a 1-yard rush, 3rd and goal from the 1, a 1-yard rush gets the job done. That's a very successful rush, but it is only 1 yard per rush. So EPA per rush on True Media measures the effectiveness essentially on a per rush basis. So 3rd and 1 yard rush is extremely successful, but it's only 1 yard per rush.
What about on 1st and 10? What do you got to get?
4 at least.
Well, that's how it's. Yeah, I was seeing what about 2nd and 6?
3.5.
I'd say 3.
Yeah. Okay, good. So they do it the same way.
John, you love that?
No, I don't know what they do. I'm just saying, from Matt Schneidman stats and info, that's what I would say.
Oh, okay. You got your own EPA? Have you been putting your own? There's somebody.
You want to know what's funny?
Who is it that keeps grading and compares his grades to the PFF grades? I find those amazing, but his scale is way different. PFF is on a scale of 0 to 100. This one is on a scale of plus like 2 to -2.
I will say, Rob Demovsky always gets some good nuggets from ESPN Stats and Info, because they have their own, stats and analytics department. Mm-hmm. And I sometimes use some of them in my story. And there was one time last year I used one and credited it to Demovsky Stats and Info as a joke. And it might have been ahead of the Giants game in London. There was a foreign reporter who thought Demovsky Stats and Info was a real thing. So citing Demovsky Stats and Info, in a tweet, I was like, this isn't a real thing.
It'd be amazing if you are that good in the analytic world where you can get your name to become like the standard, like Ken Palm or Bart Torvik.
Ken
and he charges $20 a year, guys, and you can go get all.
It's really not that bad though if you use it all the time, like you use Ken Palm.
Exactly, I think it's a good deal. But hey, I mean, you have to mentally accept that as the standard. Like, well, this must be right because it's Ken Palm, and that's what it is. It must be right because it's RobDemofskyStats.com, right?
No doubt about it.
That's the NFLPA. I'll read it off quickly if you want. Just announced the second annual Players All Pro team.
Players All Pro. Oh,
this is the NFLPA.
Yeah, with the players
picks.
All
yeah,
right.
let's get these in
very quickly. First team: Lamar Jackson, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Juszczyk, Trent Williams, Joel Bitonio, Tyler Smith, Lane Johnson, Zach Martin, Jason Kelce. Defense: Aaron Donald,
Cowboys on that list.
Aaron Donald, Chris Jones, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Dexter Lawrence, Fred Warner, Roquan Smith, Jesse Bates, Kyle Hamilton, Deron Bland, and Pat Surtain. Special teams: Brandon Aubrey, AJ Cole, Darius Davis, Brendan Schooler, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, Ross Matiskik, and Keyshawn Nixon.
There you go.
Oh, we have an All-Pro. NFLPA All-Pro.
So basically, the guys they
thought
think
we didn't deserve any Pro Bowlers.
Supposed to be good, like right? Yeah, we don't deserve it.
So Matt, now please don't get mad at me because now
they
we're
have
on
a second team.
So we're on a video stream here now, and I got this one sent to me on because you were talking about your Blues Clues thought that you looked like you may have been throughout that animated show. Actually, I found the perfect one. I was told this is Robbie Rotten from the animated show Lazy Town. And that's pretty dang Schneidman. Like I got like 6 different people sending me this cutout.
He still needs a turtleneck.
Yeah, needs the turtleneck
outside the turtleneck.
He's got the
gold
jersey
chain
over the
outside the
sweatshirt.
turtleneck.
Well, jersey over the sweatshirt.
Wow, I mean that's pretty good. Now, if you really went in with the sideburns, which I do think that you could be able to do.
Yeah, I still don't know how you get that puff on the top.
It's an impressive puff. Like the hair always looks good, dude. It's looking really fresh on this video.
We cannot disrespect the poof. The poof is nice. It's glorious.
Man, it doesn't seem amused about this.
Not a big fan. No.
Oh, sorry. I'm just tweeting out the Keyshawn Nixon thing.
That's huge.
This man always working.
Doing work at all times.
As he should be.
Hey, if you got Schefter on here, you're on a show. Give us your attention, please.
Are you a 1 phone or 2 phone guy, Schneidman?
I'm not nearly important enough to have 2 phones. I don't have a work phone. I just have my own personal phone.
Plus, he's not married. Doesn't need a bat phone. No.
Doesn't need a track phone.
Are we good with the ice, by the way?
Yeah, we're good. Although I did do my show from my apartment yesterday because I was driving back with a friend from a movie yesterday. And
date night? Hold on.
No.
Okay.
It was we were in a big car, not my car. It was like a big SUV with 4-wheel drive. And we skidded right through a red light. And I said, that was like the heat of the snow yesterday. So I said, my Toyota Corolla probably doesn't belong on these roads.
No, stay safe on these roads.
You've probably been in some trouble right there.
Safe.
No doubt about it. You stay safe in there.
Watch out for avalanches.
Good luck getting on into to 1265. I imagine that'll be very, very nicely plowed on out for you to get on over there. Be safe, and we'll talk tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Matt Schneidman, full report of what goes down in day 1 of practice out at Lambeau Field tonight on the Matt Schneidman Show, starting at 6.
I don't know. He didn't seem that amused about your
didn't like my guy Robbie. Dude, that is pretty spot on.
That's his Bitmoji that comes up when he starts sending us texts.
Oh, I miss Bitmojis. That was a fun thing for a while. Everyone had that should be his Bitmoji for sure.
Yeah. Now, sad news to report that the actor that played that man passed away.
Oh, rest in peace, man.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Sorry to the
Stephen.
family.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Sorry to the family. I got news out of the NBA that is going to upset some folks, upset some fans, and maybe fans of a certain quarterback who became quite famous due to a Netflix show. They're going to upset basketball fans with this one. Armin already has an idea of maybe what it'll be. It's 9 on the game. Back after this.
Girls were hot, wearing less than bikinis.
John Kuhn for Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, and the weather outside is frightful. But your energy bill could be much more delightful. By replacing drafty windows and doors, you can dramatically lower your energy costs. And Pella Windows of Wisconsin can offer some of the most energy efficient windows in all of the industry. They're designed to keep the cold outside right where it belongs. And right now, you can kick your January blues when you choose to book by the 31st for 0% interest up to 36 months. You heard that right. Gina Della's thrown out no interest for 36 months if you book by January 31st. Pella's got premium wood windows and patio doors that feature distinguished craftsmanship with nearly endless possibilities. And with maximum design flexibility in sizes, colors, finishes, profiles, and product types, you can be happier with your windows while staying warmer inside. You can even choose traditional or contemporary and start enjoying warmer homes with lower energy bills today. But you have to hurry. To get 0% interest for up to 36 months, you need to book by January 31st. So visit PellaWI.com and tell them John Kuhn sent you. Certain restrictions apply.
why? Chose me, so we just go running. But ain't no joke inside.
1993-94 playoffs as the last time the Detroit Lions hosted a playoff game. Last time they won a division was the NFC Central at the time. And the victory.
They still have that banner. They still have that banner.
Well, they have nothing else to put up there. Of course they have the banner. That's all they got. I'm sorry to say. I mean, except maybe a Barry Sanders, thank you. Retired.
They should have a banner saying that they hosted a WrestleMania.
Man, I said it in a nice way, and Armin went straight to clown mode.
Straight jugular. Yeah, no, he's not messing around.
That's all they had. That's all they had.
Yeah. No world titles, no semifinalists.
I thought they had a world championship.
57. They won with Bobby Lane, the great.
Do they have that? I don't know if they have that up in their stadium. Do they have a banner for that in their stadium? They should.
They should.
The Packers have all 13 of their world championships up.
Yeah, but we don't. We have too much stuff up because we're too good. So we just have them listed in the years. We don't have banners, right?
We do have the years.
It's just years.
We don't necessarily have Raptors.
Yeah, we don't have Raptors either. Right? We don't have Raptors. Right? It's kind of tough.
Armin wants to hang banners. They go directly over top of the windows in the suites. They just fall down the side of the facade. And now if you're in suite, 602, you cannot see the game anymore. You got to just look at the back of the banner.
One day we're going to start wearing numbers in the 100s because we're running out of numbers for retired numbers.
Actually, we have very few numbers retired. If you look at some of these other teams, they have a lot more. What do we have? Six because six total numbers retired.
Packers had the foresight to know that we're going to have so many great players that you can't start retiring everybody.
12 will eventually be retired. That'll make 7. It still is 93 available numbers. I think they're good for a minute.
Oh, absolutely. I would tend to agree there. They have to, but it is pretty interesting when you think about it. Jim and Max on the call, though. Rest in peace to both of them. Wow.
Boy, was that an epic call or what?
Amazing.
They're just telling them to run, and then the ball, and then run. No, he's throwing. He's open. Oh, no. Sterling in the back of the end zone.
So great. I mean, and Wayne and Larry are this way in a lot of ways, where they'll watch the game like we will, and they'll call it like we would feel it, right? If that makes any sense. So just an awesome one. And if you were, the 93, that game, the Lions beat the Packers in the last game of the regular season the week before to win the division and get the home playoff game. So the Packers lost, went back and won in the actual playoff game, and an epic finish to an epic playoff game. Hopefully we'll have another one, guys, this weekend. No doubt about it.
So I'm looking here on, the internet, and it appears that they might have one of the banners for those championships in the 50s. They have, though, the NFL playoff banners, which just lists every year that they've actually made the playoffs.
It's just sad for a franchise that old.
Yeah.
And it's been around for a long time.
But hey, now they have 2 NFL playoff banners. They got one that filled its way on up with, 9 full different years that they put on there. So they've had an overflow banner that is now getting its second.
Okay, so they got playoffs on there. You know what? I defended them for division championships.
Come on, kiddies.
I think they had 2. They had 2 Central Division championships, and then one here in the NFC North.
Yeah,
93.
This is their first NFC North. We forgot the NFC North didn't come around until what? 97.
I think it was 06. I think 02.
02 is
I think 02 is when they switched up divisions.
83, 91, and 93 were their 3 Central Division championships. And they have hung the NFC North Division championship banner already 4 days ago. Fox 2 in Detroit posted that bad boy.
They should. I'm not saying they're wrong for it. I'm just saying it's got to be an empty.
You're just making fun of them. Yeah, kind of sounds.
You should do this, but you guys are a bunch of putts. You should do this, but I feel sorry for you.
They haven't won a playoff game since 91. I mean, it's just bad. All right, so
well, can we get just bad? I do love that we were able to play that highlight, because we are the Packers Radio Network now.
Yes.
30 years ago, not to the day on Monday. That actually was.
Yeah, I missed it by 2 days. So it was actually January 8th, 94.
Now, generally you get a mulligan, right? Like generally you'll get a 1 day reprieve, quick mulligan.
Well, John,
listen, Armin is so just superb at pulling what happened yesterday in history.
Yeah. This
Never
day in
today.
history yesterday.
Never today. He's never looking at today. He's always looking at yesterday. Look at what happened yesterday in history. This is fantastic. Let's talk. Armin, it's kind of lost its cachet being now that it's not the same day.
Well, well, once it gets to 2 days, it probably has. But the important thing is that people still like hearing the highlights. So
you're right, Armin. We should all just open presents someday on the 26th of December because it's just one day. I mean, it's
30 years ago, the day before yesterday, something like that.
No, or we could celebrate something that was actually, to the day ago in history, 14 years ago to the day, the highest scoring playoff game still in NFL history, which also included the Green Bay Packers and included our friend John Kuhn here as the Packers went down to the Arizona Cardinals.
Wild one. That was a wild one, fellas. And that is the season that I compared this Packer team to, the 2009. A lot of people are comparing this to 2010 and the run that was made. You get hot at the end of the year and you make a run. Well, kind of. We lost against the Patriots in that one, back-to-back losses because we lost against the Lions the week before, and then we had to win our last 2 games to get into the playoffs. It's not like we were hot. We were hot, though, in 2009. We won 7 of our last 8 games to get into the playoffs, and we went on a wild card to Arizona where we got valuable playoff experience of what it's like to rise to the occasion, what it's like to play in a playoff atmosphere. If you remember that game, we started down quick.
Down big.
17-0 right away.
Down big,
we were down quick. We battled back. We learned how to settle in. We learned how to make some big plays. And we learned how to take that one to the brink and getting to overtime. And then we felt that agony of close defeat. And we all walked out of that stadium in 2009 saying, we were a team that wasn't meant to be done here in the wild card. And we had high expectations for next year. That's where I think this team is right now. Not saying they're going to lose this weekend because I definitely see a script for the Packers to win. But if they do lose, they can get that experience that will pay huge dividends going into next season and what they can accomplish next year.
Yeah, and that really did feel like a team on the brink, John. And I think in a lot of ways, Packer fans hope for this team to be similar no matter what happens here on Sunday against the Cowboys. But that comeback in Arizona, the fact that it was such a close game, such a high-scoring game, I think solidified it, at least for fans in that offense, is that, wow, this is a young, special group. Jermichael had a big game. A lot of guys had a big game.
Jermichael had a big game. Aaron had a big game, but Aaron was a little bit off at the beginning of that game. Threw an interception to drive that it was a little bit inside, a little bit high early in that football game. That was his first playoff experience. Right.
And a heater to end the year just like this one. That was even 5 of 6 because that was a 5-5 team, I think. And then if you're obviously there was a play, I think just a couple inches away from in overtime hitting Jennings on that touchdown in overtime that would have won
just
it.
over his hands.
I always still think there's a face mask on that final play.
If not a face mask, a hands to the face. And then Aaron kicked the ball, and there was some scrutiny over whether you're allowed to kick the ball and that thing get advanced the way that it was. It was a squirrely ending. I was standing right behind McCarthy when that happened, and he just fell to his knees on the field. Oof.
I remember seeing that video. I remember him talking about how he was kind of embarrassed about that. Yeah, but he's
in the America's game where you pulled the vanilla latte bit from.
I'm such a non-drama guy, but I don't know what in that moment the weight of the weight of
he's such a non-drama guy. He's emotional. He's emotional, just like LaFleur is emotional during the games, and they do it differently. LaFleur spiked his headset this past week. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm. He was also pumping up the crowd pretty good on a couple of those third down. Come on. He was getting them
super
going,
hype,
dude.
man. He is super hype, man. I'd love to have seen him in college at the parties, man. I guarantee his fist was just bumping the ceiling right off. I mean, he was just fist bumping everybody. Get up, let's go.
Him and Mike McDaniel, because we learned a little bit about Mike McDaniel last night on the in-season Hard Knocks. Talked about his drinking problem that almost cost him not once but twice his job in the NFL. And certain guys,
it did cost him a job for a minute. Yeah, he was out for a while.
He was out for over a full year, and then got back in. And then in 2016, with that team that LaFleur was a part of, he said multiple guys sat him down and said, not only do you have to change, you gotta go tell your wife about this. We're not letting you do this again behind the cover of darkness to everybody else.
Wow. Yeah.
And you can talk about it pretty impressively.
You can almost tell that guy went hard in the streets.
He was having himself some fun times.
He had himself, and man, he looks like a hell of a guy to party with. I'm glad that he got it cleaned up. I'm glad that he's got an offense that's just an absolute monster right now with his big old genius offensive brain that he works with all these big weapons down there in Miami. But man, yeah, I can imagine he got it going.
Dude, it's an impressive story for him. Not only that, he was a autograph seeker when he was a kid with the Broncos before he ended up getting the ball boy job. He loses a hat. He went to Lost and Found to go see if, they found the hat. Well, the guy that he talked to ends up buying him a new hat and then ends up marrying his mom.
What?
Goes from helping the little kid that's
Wow.
left at practice to try to go and get his 14 football card signed to, hey, I found your youngster over here digging through the Lost and Found.
No, that's a story.
But that marriage also, hey, anyway, you can get to meet somebody when you need to meet somebody, right?
Yeah.
But
pre-Tinder.
Didn't that somehow set him up for a love for football?
Well, he was
marriage.
I mean, he was giddy about it before that, but then that's probably the easiest way that he got.
But that got him access to the practice.
Next level, yeah, probably that makes sense.
Well, again, he was at practice. That's when he lost the hat. That's when the staffer found him another hat and then introduced himself to his mom. So yes, the staffer did have connections and was one of the ways that he got closer to the game.
Those sideline passes that you wear around your neck, and now he's legally allowed to walk the sidelines and dap up players. Could you see a little Mike McDaniel running around on the field, dapping up all the players after big? I love that. Listen, when you come out of your break, you want to you want to do a step on a couple ants before you come out of your break. I can see him doing that at age 8.
It can affect you if you're a young kid and you find a guy and get an autograph, or you're an autograph seeker. I mean, I remember when Vin Baker signed my ball on that staircase. I saw Vin Baker. I was like 9 years old.
How old was Armin?
9 or 10. It was like 93 or 94.
I wonder if Leon remembers what he did to you.
Well, he was there, and he yelled out to Vin because he recognized him, and I don't even know if he remembers, but I remember. And Eric Murdoch stiffed us. But Vin Baker didn't. He signed the ball.
What a guy that Vin Baker.
I didn't want
Baker. Greater signed Murdoch.
And I didn't want Eric Murdoch's autograph that bad anyway. I wanted Vin Baker.
Is he related to the other Murdochs that I watched the Netflix documentary on?
Not the same Murdochs.
Oh, okay. There's a Netflix documentary that you might be watching.
But just as evil. It
sounds like it.
No,
Breaking kids' hearts.
I don't want to put that on Eric Murdoch. It's a totally different malfeasance. What those Murdochs did to not signing an autograph, that's totally different.
I mean, maybe a little bit. Maybe a little.
Sounds like you have the same disdain for him.
Yeah. Sounds
Any
like
Murdoch.
Still
I just remember it. That's all.
414-799-1973 is the phone number to get in on the program with. You can get to the talk and text line. You could also be calling on in, giving out your picks to Armin. If you are in You Better You Bet, we got some nefarious actions to discuss during You Better You Bet coming up in about 15 minutes. But I got to pay off this Netflix tease because some folks are going to be very upset about the feature of this Netflix series because you had Pat Mahomes on quarterback. There's only one guy that you can get from another sport, right? Fill you in next 9 noon on the game.
Hey, ladies. Hey, mom.
What's up?
Let's slide.
All right.
All right. And we gon' get it on tonight. You smoke.
I smoke.
I drink.
Me too.
Well, good. Because we gon' get hot tonight. Got drops.
Got clues.
Got trucks.
Got G's.
All right. And we gon' take a ride tonight. So, mom.
What's up?
Let's slide.
All right.
All right. And we gon' get it on tonight.
Now it's down.
Been getting it on for 2 hours. Gonna do it even better in hour number 3. Iron Jock, ironjoc.com. They're saying, let's go. Let's get it on. Now through January 21st, when you buy $50 or more of Iron Jock Performance Apparel, take 25% off everything in your cart with promo code FITNESS25. You're also going to get yourself a free Iron Jock Script baseball cap. It'll immediately be added into your cart. You'll get to choose which version of the cap you want to select at ironjock.com, ironjoc.com for more details. Remember, promo code FITNESS25. All right, fellas. So Shams Charania is the one that broke this story.
Of course it was.
We had very different and differing.
You don't like Shams either? Is he on the Mount Rushmore?
No, I love Shams. I said, of course it was, a.k.a. he's always good. Shams is nowhere near Armin Watch.
Okay.
Not on my watch list.
Okay.
Oh, I love Shams.
Nowhere near Armin Watch or Armin's Mount Rushmore.
That sounds like Woj might be on your watch list then.
No, they both do a good job.
Oh,
I'm not here to rip on people.
Okay.
Just Eric Murdoch, I guess.
Yeah, just
And
Eric
the
Murdoch
Lions.
Well,
and Lions fans.
That's more pity.
Eric Murdoch sounds like he deserves it. People on the Talking Text line not fancy.
Yeah, Brian in West Dallas. What's up with that? What do you ever do to you, Brian?
All right, get to your. I don't want to do this.
I actually don't even know who Eric Murdoch is, to be completely honest with you. So that might be the biggest issue. Why? Okay. Shams Charania of Stadium Sports and The Athletic with the source that we had differing opinions on the Netflix show Quarterback. Might have differing opinions on the Netflix series modeled around quarterback as a new documentary series starting with 5 players to be the project of an NBA docuseries. Can you guess which NBA players are going to be here? And the one right
John
there.
Morant.
Dang, that would have been good.
That's the one I want to follow.
That would have been good.
He's the Patrick Mahomes. Give me an inside look at this kid.
I would have loved this.
I want to see, does he have any guns toting around his home anymore? I mean, what is he doing? How many Cinnabons and $1 bills is he dropping in his off time? I want to see that.
What about Zion? Could you imagine how many trips that like 2 a.m. you were going to one of those beautiful chicken spots that you can
Chester
always buy?
Fries?
Oh God, he's always hitting that place up in New Orleans. No, neither of the 2 top picks in the 2018 draft are a part of it. The centerpiece will be
LeBron.
None other than LeBron James.
I mean, he hasn't been the most documented human ever anyway.
Yeah,
so.
to give us somebody other than LeBron.
Okay. How about somebody from
the Bucks?
Armin Sarian's? No Bucks a part of this project.
Okay.
Oh, an old Marquette.
Your second favorite organization in the NBA.
Oh, second favorite.
Teams I don't like?
Teams that you don't like.
What, the Heat or the
Bulls.
Celtics?
Both.
Okay. So one's Jimmy Butler. Okay.
Ding.
All right. Celtics. Jason Tatum. Tatum will be boring, I think.
You got 3 of the 5.
They're picking all stars. They're picking guys that aren't going to go and do stuff that we're not going to expect.
All stars.
Yeah, but no international stars yet. Okay, so Luka.
There isn't an international star.
Luka?
No.
Jokic?
No. DeMontis Sabonis.
Okay.
Next level player, all-star a year ago with the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah,
He's good.
yeah.
And maybe you want an entertaining factor, an entertainment
You
factor.
need one.
You need one. They got one.
Kyrie.
Anthony Edwards.
Oh, yeah.
That could be.
Oh,
that
yeah.
could be. Could be, yeah.
That could be very fun. This is the cat that didn't know anything about baseball, didn't know who Alex Rodriguez was, but he said he could have played Major League Baseball at 24.
Is he gonna be 20% of the show? Because that's the only 20% I really want to watch.
Dude, he is
Actually,
gonna be so
Sabonis is
funny.
going to end up stealing the show.
I think Sabonis is my favorite one to watch. I mean, Jimmy, it will be obviously interesting to me as well. But
Yeah, I think the hate for the Miami Heat is clouding how interesting
No, Jimmy will be,
Butler's
of course.
life is.
Jimmy's incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
But my problem with superstars on these documentaries, you don't necessarily get the real story, right?
Well
When you're a
coached.
when you're a superstar, yeah, you come out there and this is what I want you to see. When you have guys that aren't the superstars, they go out there and they just do whatever. I mean, I want to see the real life.
We should have gotten Jeff Teague on this show.
he would have been funny.
Yeah.
As much as I don't know, like all of us.
Definitely
comments,
not Bryn Forbes.
He's
Can't
funny.
have that anymore.
No, I wanted
No.
Jay Crowder. Give me
Jay would have been a nice one. Any
Mhm.
other Marquette stars that you would have liked to learn about from yesteryear?
I think Wes Matthews has always been
Henry Ellenson could have been in here, but there goes that.
I don't think there's much there.
No interest in the flame out from 5 years ago in the draft.
And much respect to Rice Lake Warriors up there.
Yeah, come on, Rice
listening
Lake.
to us, I think on where would they be? Twin Ports, 710 the game.
I don't think they're that far up.
No, they're pretty far north. But I don't know. Maybe they're not at Ashland, though.
Somebody will be able to help us
Wausau,
out with that.
probably. Yeah.
Maybe Wausau. Yeah, maybe Wausau would have been their spot. So that's the 5. LeBron James, most hated one. Jason Tatum, Jimmy Butler will have a run at the most hated. Anthony Edwards, DeMontis Sabonis. If you had those in your pick 5, you won. You can cash a ticket over at Potawatomi Hotel and Casino, and you can get ready to be a part of our Coons Can't Miss, which is next on 9 to Noon.
Well, that's gonna bust you in the mouth with the chorus now. Say,
the game as we get you into hour number 3. We'll get you Coons Can't Miss here momentarily, but first we've run through a lot of news here so far on the day today. We broke the news that former Packer quarterback coach Luke Getsy, now former offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears, has been relieved of his duties. They also fired their wide receivers coach and quarterback coach. They had already relieved their running backs coach midseason. So full staff change there on the offensive side. No offensive staff change needed in Green Bay. We already know that. But some praise is needed in Green Bay. So for the second consecutive week, quarterback Jordan Love has been named the Offensive Player of the Week in the NFC with his 316, thank you, Stone Cold, passing yards, 128.6 rating, 2 TDs, completion percentage of about 84.5%. The league puts out a press release about this. 9 games with 2+ TDs and no INTs. Most in the NFL this year. That's a Jordan Love stat. He's the first quarterback to win the award in consecutive weeks since Jalen Hurts did it in weeks 12 and 13 last year. No Packers player, this comes from the team, had won a league-issued Player of the Week award this year until Jordan Love won it each of the last 2 weeks. The only Packers player to win a weekly award last season. Can you name the 2 players that won weekly awards in the NFC in 2022?
For the Packers?
For the Packers.
I'd say Keyshawn Nixon for Special Teams Player of the Week.
That's what my thought was. Yeah.
Week 17.
And then I would say
Patrick
Did Rasul Douglas have a pick 6 last year? Yeah. There we go. I
Pat
got him.
O'Donnell.
Armin Armin got it.
I
didn't hear you over there.
I was joking. I just said Patrick O'Donnell. He did win it.
So take that, Rich Bisaccia haters. Last year, the only weekly awards were Pat O'Donnell in week 3 and Keyshawn Nixon in week 17.
How about that? And because I remember thinking, I thought Pat had a pretty good year last year, and he was before he was kind of unceremoniously
Love the
dumb.
second player this season to win any weekly award consecutive weeks. The only other, AFC special teamer Dustin Hopkins, Browns punter, won it week 6 and 7.
Wow.
And I said the last quarterback to win it was Jalen Hurts. Last year, also Josh Allen got it weeks 5 and 6. Pretty impressive. I mean, you start looking at guys throughout the NFC. Obviously, there are certain stars that sit during different weeks of the season, but Love followed up his NFC Player of the Week performance with arguably one that was even more dominant and better against the Bears. He becomes the 4th Packers quarterback all time to earn the honor, twice joining the likes of Don Mikowski, who won it twice. And I think you can name the other 2. Brett Favre won it 12 different times. Aaron Rodgers 19 times in his career was the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. Jordan also becomes the first ever Utah State quarterback to win the Offensive Player of the Week twice. Don't know who won it once, also from Utah State. I should know that. That's an L on my part, and we will do some feverish research to be able to bring you that information, hopefully before the close of business here today. Didn't say 9-to-noon because that's going to take even longer probably for us to find that information. But that's big time. Last Packer to win it back-to-back weeks.
Any other Packers get it this year? I feel like we had one other one. No?
Not
Just
Aaron,
Jordan Love
not Aaron
twice, that's
Jones
it?
week 1. I thought maybe Aaron Jones.
Well, if you think about it, we waited until the end of the season. We went the whole damn season without having a 100-yard receiver, and then we went Bo Melton and Jaden Reed in back-to-back games. We went nearly a whole year without a running back until Aaron Jones went back-to-back 3 times with 100 yards rushing in a game. And Jordan Love only had 2 300-yard passing games this year. So, again, pretty impressive job by this Packers team. No Pro Bowlers, youngest roster in the league, and you get 2 300-yard passing performances, 2 100-yard receiving performances, and 3, and all of them happening at the end of the year. Pretty impressive.
Some would say that means peaking at the right time, right? Peaking towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
Don Beebe, the only other Packer to win it in back-to-back years since the award's inception in 1984. He won it in 1996 for Special Teams Player of the Week, week 6, and Offensive Player of the Week in week number 7.
Yeah, you know, that makes sense. Week 6, he had a kickoff return against the Bears for a touchdown. And I think in week 7, when Brooks got hurt against the Niners.
Oh, that was the Monday night game?
He had that big Monday night game. So that makes a lot of sense. Now that I think about that, that was a good year for Don Beebe. He was big that year. Man, That's a good one right there. All right.
That's an impressive feat for Jordan Love. And as anything else to give any Packers fans more confidence or at least a little bit of belief going down to Dallas, you have a quarterback right now that's playing some of his best football, if not the best football of his career and some of the better football that we've seen at that position in quite some time. All right, we got some nefarious actions to get to here in You Better You Bet.
We do. Should we sing just for fun, or is that like?
Well, you breezed right through it yesterday, so you decide if you want to sing here, Armin. Do you want those dulcet tones?
I think we should sing.
Blast through the 50,000 watt radio station.
Yeah, just because we're not. Yeah, let's sing.
Let's do it.
You better. You better. You better. You better. When I say I need you, you say you better. You better. You better. You better not try and trick me. Now, I'm not accusing anybody. But you better not try and be doing that.
Oh, I am accusing. I'm throwing lofty accusations against a certain individual of our listening audience.
Mm-hmm.
Joe emails Armin.
He did email me.
Just Joe.
Joe from Kenosha. Now,
okay, I wasn't going to put his location in there.
Maybe I made a mistake somewhere down the line, so I don't want to just out and out accuse somebody, Joe in Kenosha. But he emailed me his picks, and I don't have a Joe from Kenosha here on this winner's bracket. I don't have a
which was created week 11. So there's no way that, for the first 10 weeks, one could have fallen through the cracks.
No. But this is the best part. Joe and Kenosha, tell me what week you won, because we have hard ledgers here at 9-2. We keep our statistics with pen and pad.
Yes.
I can go back and check this if he gives me the week.
Now, I could be wrong. You do have the ledger, right, Joe and Kenosha? And
Armin, no offense. Armin's regularly wrong.
I do make
regularly.
His desk is a hodgepodge. It kind of looks like a hamster's cage with the stuff that's spread all over the place.
So
There's
true.
a water bottle over here and maybe some leftover food bites over here.
Weird scent of cedar.
Chia pet.
All kinds of stuff just on that desk.
You do have a chia pet over there.
It's quite possible that Armin, in fact, does not have it on the official ledger, but I have it on my ledger. If it's true, you tell us the week and I'll go hunt it down.
But that's true, and we will. But I'm just going to say this. Now, this is where we work on the honor system. All right? Don't just start emailing me picks to thinking you can overwhelm me and just slide you right into that winner's bracket, because I'm going to be checking my records. And I want to thank the guys that have already emailed me their picks, and Brewer Bruce, who called in his picks during a break to make sure I had them. Appreciate that.
He
so
doesn't
How
have an
many
email?
how many people do you need to get yet, Armin?
we're still looking for a lot of picks. I'll let you know who has already
Keep
contacted
this in mind.
me.
48 hours. This will be up.
Yeah. Brewer,
10 o'clock on Friday. That's when Armin set the deadline. 10 o'clock Friday. Need the picks.
Deviation Don. Dudes, what lines are we using, please?
Oh my
Don,
gosh.
Don.
Are you
Come
guys-
on over here and let's have a conversation here real
You
quick.
think they're trolling me? I think that's what that is.
They're messing with you guys, no doubt.
What lines have we used all year, guys?
Potawatomi.
Potawatomi's lines. And what ones we're using? We're using the ones from Friday morning at 10 a.m. for everybody. Okay.
And for anybody that wants Potawatomi's lines, it's c3-static.canby.com. Very easy web
There you
name
go.
to
Oh, yeah.
remember. c3-static.canby.com. That's where you go to.
Candy Inc.
No, static.
Static. Dang it.
Dot
Okay.
Canby with a K.
Oh, okay. That's I was putting a C on it. Yep. That was my fault.
And an I, not to be confused with Marcus Canby. Canby with a
player.
K and an I.
Good player.
Man. Former
So-
number 1 overall pick, wasn't he?
Well, he might have been. I'd have to go check.
Sorry, go
that.
ahead, Armin. You were about to say something.
No, I
that
was just
gonna
going
be
to go
much
through
better than mine.
Brewer Bruce, Tim in Fredonia, Ken in the Falls, Tristan in Wausau, Tyler in Madison, and Will in Greenfield, all their picks in. I might have more once I check my email again.
That sounds like maybe a quarter of the
Yeah.
winners got their
No,
picks. 48 hours. Hey, a lot of people like to run it right down to the edge.
Well, I'll be tracking them down myself. That's the way this goes.
Chris in West Bend, I was definitely thinking about sending an email, but Armin would probably just strong arm me out of the competition since he already did that. Shaking my head. How on earth did that happen?
I don't really understand. I don't understand what kind of accusations you're lobbing in my direction here, Chris. All right. I don't really understand how I strong
Caught that grenade, threw it right
A
on
lot
back
of people
at him.
saying Armin's the nefarious one on here. I have not been picked for You Better You Bet all year, and I put my picks in multiple times.
That's just sour grapes. That doesn't mean I did something wrong. Okay. That's just sour grapes that I didn't pick you. And I'm sorry, I can't pick everybody. All right. This isn't Halloween. I'm not handing out candy to every kid. Okay.
No.
Come on.
That's like Mike and the Slinger was hoping that he would have just gotten that toss in. He goes, hey, I went perfect on my picks last week, so I'm just going to pull a Jair and appoint myself into the winner's bracket.
No, I do.
It's actually kind of good.
That's pretty great. I'm just walking right in. Now, I have heard from a bunch of Nooners that let me know they're going to wait till Thursday night. All right. So, Brent and Franklin, hey, it's their right. We have no problem with that. You have the right to wait till the.
You're better than me. I would have thrown that thing up midnight as it hits 12:01 on Friday. If your pick is not in by Friday, you're out.
I just don't want anyone to accuse me.
You're way too nice. You're gonna be feverishly working in here the whole first hour of the show. Right,
he's
making
gonna
sure
be
everything's
grinding.
on down here.
Well, it's a busy
not
day.
paying attention.
Trying to get us
work.
to commercial on this thing is a hard task for
Hard
Armin
enough.
Sarn, and now he has to collect all this information from the Nooners. This is going to be a mess.
I think I've been pretty.
I can't wait for Friday.
I've been
It's gonna
quicker
be
with it the last
nuts.
day, but it will be a busy day. I've been quicker with the commercial cover, I think. But you never know. I mean, because, hey, if I don't get the pick, it could be like the hidden gem of Nooners like we had last time, Mike and Franklin, who told us about stories about the Army, who told us all kinds of crazy stories, started throwing bread everywhere, if you remember that, John. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was wild. He had some wild stories.
That's impressive. That was at Carnivore.
I mean, I actually
Milwaukee's
think
Premier Steakhouse for over 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
The place that
Big-
you want to go.
Big wine menu. Big wine
Then
menu.
they put us at the
You got to
big
actually see it to believe it, John. of that wine
Wagyu
and
steaks
spirits.
from multiple different countries.
Multiple flags
You
right
don't
in
even
that
know
bad
where
boy.
it comes until the flag shows up. And then you forgot that flag was for that country. And then you're
That's
reminded.
that's
It's
awesome.
an education
It's
as much as
education.
it is a dinner.
It's educational. He said, "Oh, that's what the Australian flag looks like." I didn't realize.
Or the Armenian flag, like we found out last week while we were doing You Better You Bet. That's what it looks like. Kind of looks like a boxcar.
Not many classic steakhouses give you the modern experience either.
No.
It's pretty fantastic.
No, that's why Milwaukee's Premier Steakhouse is Carnivore for over 15 years. The place that you want to eat with the guys, if you can beat the guys, and You Better You Bet.
Armin, I can't wait for, and they have all beaten us. Now they need to beat each other. Now they need to whittle it down to two. There's many
Exactly.
people that have gotten in here. Now they need
So
to.
do we give picks?
They need to cannibalize. No, we don't pick at all.
You're done now.
Oh,
We can pick them. We can pick them for fun, but
Sure.
we don't compete at all. They
Yeah.
will now cannibalize each other. This is Nooner on Nooner crime the rest of the way on out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a true experience in terms of
Meritocracy. is what you're looking
meritocracy.
for, Armin.
Thank you. You're right, John. In terms of that, I
Look
was.
at that one.
I wanted.
I can't wait
meritocracy.
to get. I've been waiting for years to get Armin
You
on
got
a vocabulary word.
Good one. Yes,
Just words,
it was
finally.
meritocracy. But that
Years.
is the
It took
That's the
me
beauty of this.
exactly 4 years, 3 months, and 2 hours and 16 minutes to get Armin on a vocab word.
Oh,
Good.
man.
it's a big
That
moment.
smile on John Kuhn's face is worth watching the
Yeah.
YouTube or the X stream for
So
itself.
excited
Scroll
about
back,
that one. So
11,
excited about
16.
that.
But that's the beauty of You Better You Bet. They're really trying to beat you guys, the listeners.
Sure.
And then
And then
they
they
got
gotta
to
beat each other.
So
I like that.
we're like the
deal. Okay.
gladiators watching them feast on each other.
So
now.
what we're trying to do is
Well, we're not the gladiators.
Whoa,
we're the
whoa, whoa.
people
We're
in the audience.
We're the
Yeah.
people in the Coliseum watching. Yeah.
And the two that make it through get to stand at the end and say, "Are you not entertained?
Yes.
Are you not entertained?"
I could always I've thought about it many a time, especially when I was walking around in Rome. This is the, dude, think about the Roman Empire
Yeah,
once
you
a
did.
month.
You went there. I did too. It was awesome.
I've thought about that, like what that experience would
Oh,
be like
yeah.
to be sitting in the Coliseum. That would something else. Right?
Watching
Like
people
bull,
die.
dude,
watching people
bullfight
get eaten
enough
by
was
lions.
a bullfight enough was tough enough for your boy to
Well,
witness. But
so
like, that would have been something else.
now I took not to get too off track here, but I did
Well,
take
we're already clearly off the track.
I
You
took
might
the-
as well keep rolling on it.
I took the Coliseum tour with Laura as well last summer. All right, it was our big trip, right?
It's insane.
Were you able to get into the basement?
Yeah, we went down there. We ordered a tour, so it wasn't just like we went on our own. We went on a tour group, and they give you that little earpiece so you get
Yeah.
the tour guide.
Mhm.
So I love that, and they give you all the tidbits. Common misconceptions. First of all, it was free admission and free concessions for all the Romans, all the people. The Roman Empire. Like this
Being
was
a
like,
Roman
this
had
was
its
free.
perks. Yes.
This was free.
Yeah, this was the exact opposite of going to a football game now. Now, if you go to the game, you get absolutely crushed at the gates for ticket prices
Oh, yeah.
and crushed
Ticket fees.
at the concession stands. And if you play in the game, you are rewarded handsomely. Back then, if you went to the game, you got in free and you got free concessions. But if you played in the events, you could have been eaten by a lion.
Done.
Thanks
About
for
to be
that.
over.
And the other thing is, they would.
I
bring,
like that flip.
They would bring the animals
Glad
in.
400 years. ended up
We
flipping that
seem
bad
to
boy
have
out.
figured it out.
Yeah, 4,000 years, and
Right.
now we're working it out the right way.
But you're right. They bring the lions and the elephants in. And of course, think about it. None of these people had ever seen beasts like this ever in the world before. So it was this incredible, like, just display. It was almost like a circus as well. They weren't just fighting, people. Now that was an aspect of the gladiators and what they were doing, but it was a little misconception that that's all they were doing was trying to not get eaten by a lion. But a lot of it was just like putting these animals on display for the Romans to say, look what I'm bringing to my people.
And then have them
gifts.
fight together.
Yeah, that was part of it.
And then it would come and get cold in the winter, and all the animals from Africa died.
I think so. That you think about it,
it's kind of exactly what happened.
Imagine the effort that took back then to try and find these beasts and bring them back and all these things. I mean, incredible.
Way harder than these poachers are working out in Africa to try to find these beasts. No doubt about it. That's for sure. Yeah. They were not running from the grind there, the Roman Empire.
Absolutely not. No. I mean, they weren't.
They were actually running right to it and then running it into the ground. Pretty impressive stuff. Pretty impressive stuff. Kind of like if you are on a massive heater, you hit the exits. You don't allow yourself to continue grinding until Potawatomi Sportsbook takes it all away.
The man can't miss. Time now
they
for
will.
Coons Can't Miss. Presented by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Bet big. Bet full.
And free entry there as well. Just like the Coliseum. And you get free soda.
It's
You
true.
potentially get free concessions depending on how much of a miser you want to be. Sorry, you can roll in there. You might have to walk down the Escalade because sometimes it gets jammed. But Escalades, they work just like
get your steps in. Yeah,
they work. I mean, that's the thing.
Track them on
when they work, they're great. When they don't work, they still work. That's the thing about Escalades. Escalators.
Escalates. I kind of
Escalators.
like
Escalators.
Yeah.
Eels.
If you make your way over to Potawatomi to check out the escalators, I'll remind you that kiosks are available off the second and third level, just off the skywalk. So easy to get to, so easy to get back out. If you only have, like 30 minutes for lunch, you can buzz in, buzz out. You got that thing taken care of. Or you can stay and hang out, make your way downstairs to the 10 different ticket writers and really enjoy an afternoon with them. Armin loves talking with them over and over and over again.
Yeah.
In fact, they say, hey, there's a line. You need to move and get to the back of the line or make your way over, Armin, to the temporary sports book. That's the old Fire Pit Sports Bar and Grill. Armin loves the 30 big screens. He loves the full bar with food and beverage service, even though he goes upstairs to get free sodas and then comes back down. And then plenty of seating for all of Armin's friends. Laura sits on the other side of the room while they watch Marquette versus Purdue.
And all right, I love what's coming as well. It's going to be a great time with the brand new sports book. So
yeah, we got a lot of plans when that sports book comes in from being built off site. This is like building your kitchen and then just clicking it in. It's like Legos. It's like Legos. You have this kitchen and then you sit it down and it clicks right in. That's what they're doing out there. I mean, you're talking about a VIP section on the first level. I mean, Armin's not going to be able to get there. I'm not going to be able to get there. It's VIP. You got to be important to get down there. VIP section in the front with couches and bottle service. And then the second is a high top bar with high top chairs. Armin won't be sitting in them because he stands the whole time. And then you got the batch with the couch in the 300 level. That's where me and Billy will be chilling more times than not while Armin's pacing on the second level. And that screen, when you talk about looking to the left, dude, turn your head once, Armin, all the way to the left as far as it goes. Now turn it to the right as far as it goes.
It's a flawless complexion.
Nothing but screen. Nothing but screen. You will see the screen the entire time you move your neck. That's how big this screen is. It's going to
be awesome.
You need to get some mobility in that thing, by the way. Maybe I can get you in a couple exercises, get you working out some. Anyways,
right,
Billy said that Potawatomi will drop you from a heater, and it seems to do it to even the best of us because I am grinding to get singular wins throughout the course of the week. And the problem is I may have inadvertently started to debunk Ken Palm. I think I'm starting to debunk.
I'm nervous about
Ken
this. Yeah, because I need Ken Palm to be right.
$20 a year is not looking very well.
Armin's Ken Palm foolproof analytic model has failed me twice. And yesterday it failed me with Blake Hinson over 16.5 for Pitt over Duke. That was a big fat L. He got in a little foul trouble early. That's the problem with the prop bets.
You never know what's going to happen in these games. And the problem with the prop bets, and Pittsburgh in general screwed you. Their offense was terrible yesterday. I know Duke's good, but they're at home.
I checked in, and Seth Greenberg was doing the halftime report, and it was 48-23.
Yeah,
it's like that's going to be a can mess.
A lot of once great competitive programs.
Unless Blake Hinson went out there in the second half and said, "I'm just YOLOing because we already lost." So
what else? Might as well fire him on up.
I was ready for him just to start yeeting that thing, and he never did. He was in foul trouble in the first half.
He only put up 8 shots. He got 29 minutes. I'm a little disappointed. First
They
of all,
were denying ball very good on him. I will say-
Yeah, they were 3 out of 7 from 3. So you think to yourself, oh, you get 3 threes already? That's 9. I'm sure I got up to 17 or 16 and a half was the line. That was all he scored. Disappointing.
They were denying ball very well on him. He could not even get the ball in his hands for a good portion of that ball game. So that's another loss. That's not good. But we are either going to continue to debunk Ken Palm, or we're going to get a win here today. Because Ken Palm, what does Ken Palm say about Xavier's rebounding efficiency?
So they don't do individual stats, but they do rank them pretty high in their rebounding efficiency. Their offensive rebound percentage is 29.5. Now that's the D1 average, but their percentage is 74th nationally. So are you going for rebounds here, John? Is that what we're looking for?
Well, I was.
I don't think it's great.
Those numbers
I don't think it's great. Looking closer into it, I don't know if I love this line. Now they're playing UConn too.
Yeah, they are.
Well,
Tough place to get boards against.
They got some big boys, you know.
Actually, I like the rebound number, but I'm not going to go with the rebound props because UConn's led by a guard in the rebounding category.
That's
so
the
I don't
thing.
think I'm going to go there.
Now, we've done this before. I'm not going to tell you what to do.
And rebound and UConn spreads the ball around. They have like 4 scorers who are averaging 15 points a game. So I'm not necessarily going to go in the scoring category. So I'm going to take this line. What do you think about UConn minus 4.5 here, Armin? At Xavier. It's on the road. But I like UConn minus 4.5 here.
Ken Palm
all Ken Palm analytics seem to add up to this.
Well, they predict a 4-point game. I think there's a good chance you can get the cover here.
Jeez. That's what we're doing. Ken Palm for the win. UConn minus 4.5.
I can't guarantee you anything. So I can't sit here and tell you it's definitely going to hit, but
we'll see. We'll see if Ken Palm goes 0 for 3.
So you've got UConn to cover, correct?
UConn to cover.
4.
Based off of the rebounding
4.5
percentages. Not very high for Xavier.
All right, UConn, let's have a big night and let's cover this thing. Let's go. 4.5.
How bad did that taste coming out of your mouth? How bad did that taste? Come on, UConn.
I don't like UConn. I got into it with their fans many times last year.
There's really nothing to like about UConn.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, Marquette had their number last year, but they had the nation's number by winning the national title. So it's a tough situation.
Yeah, that was tough. That was a tough battle that you were fighting on those Twitter streets where you were trying to talk stuff after they just won the national title.
I don't back down, Billy, as you know.
Hey, remember Madison Square Garden. Beat y'all in the semifinals.
And Billy's accused me of being different on these Twitter streets than in person.
You are a little different on Twitter than you are in person.
The best part about the can't miss is I would have never watched a Duke UConn 45-20 halftime game into the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I had Blake Hinson going for 16.5. And that's why I was waiting for him to start yeeting. It never happened.
College basketball is fun, though. All right, UConn minus 4.5. I'm sorry. What is that the correct line?
Jeez.
UConn's covering 4.5, right? I just want to make sure. UConn minus 4.5.
Currently
John?
laying 4.5
That's the
at
ticket.
Xavier is the number.
I just want to get my records correct because I don't need any Joan Kenosha's coming up and telling me I did something wrong. So
there he is.
Yeah.
Coons can't miss is UConn. Armin hates it. However, he'll cheer for it here tonight. You can as well, or fade it over at Potawatomi Sportsbook, Hotel, Casino, and Sportsbook, because you don't want to forget about the hotel part. You definitely know the rest of the casino is gone, but the hotel slept on. It is not given enough love for how much fun it is to stay up there at Potawatomi Hotel, Casino, Sportsbook. We're back right after this. It's 9-2 on the game.
Drinks at the bar, pop champagne, 'cause we got that.
Come on, come on. I see no changes. Wake up in the morning and I ask myself, is life worth living? Should I blast myself? I'm tired of being poor and even worse, I'm black. My stomach hurts, so I'm looking for a purse to snatch.
We might have to get Ken Palm on this radio program just to be able to introduce him to Armin Sarian.
I would love that. I'd like to ask Ken a couple questions as well.
Yeah, I would love that actually.
I mean, you'd be able.
I like his
more
stuff.
than anything. We'd be able to discuss the fact that you fight for his analytics more than just about any human being I've ever met in my entire life.
Well, here's the thing:
more than any NCAA selection committee member who is bringing it up to the forefront there on Selection Sunday. Armin is
and
rubber
I
stamping
know,
that bad boy all day.
Is that the only analytics that you subscribe to, Armin?
There's also Bart Torvik,
think over here.
The T rank. Good one, Billy. There's Bart Torvik, the T rank. That's also a really good one.
Where do you get your football analytics?
I don't subscribe.
Where do you get your baseball analytics? You have all kinds of P war and T war and S war.
If there's a good one, well, a lot of that stuff I just get from Baseball Reference and Football Reference and stuff. It's available on there.
That's a great free site.
Yeah,
Ken Palm
site.
is over here kicking you down.
Well, there are some advantages to paying the subscription, but hey, I mean,
like what?
Oh, you get the predictions of the games, you get all that stuff.
Those have worked for us.
I've had some that worked for me just because you remember the ones you lost. All right. Sorry that Alcorn State didn't foul at the end of the game. Listen,
Ken couldn't judge that coaching decision.
Listen, we're running data models. It doesn't mean anything's perfect. All it's saying is we're running data models. And guess what? You know what I love about analytics? It's
all
not
break.
biased. Okay, all these KB and everybody making fun of Wags and Butch and analytics stinks and all this stuff. There's no bias involved. That's why I love the analytics, because it's all objective analysis. There's no eye test. There's no I think this team's
Human
better.
element.
There you go. So I want an objective analysis.
Once they start having robot games, these analytics are going to be foolproof.
Well, sure, because
once we start watching robots, John, analytics are going to rush sports books.
At least it proves we're not living in a simulation, right? All these guys say that we're living in a simulation. Now, if we were, they would go exactly as Ken Palm says, right? But we're not. There's still a human interest.
I didn't think that was going to be the highlight of it.
It's
but
just like playing the stock market. You get these odds, you start playing the odds, and then all of a sudden there's a crash on a team. And then everything you bet on that team goes under.
And you never can predict it. I mean, sometimes it's not going to go that way, but that's just the way it goes, If we could really predict the future, we'd be in a totally different type of business and world and tax bracket.
Well, that's fair. Speaking of a paywall, it's one that I'm not going to go behind for golongtd.com, the Tyler Dunn site. Not going to be buying and paying for that subscription.
Not? You don't like the content?
I'm okay without it. But Bob McGinn is on that site. John Kuhn, maybe one of his favorites. Hey, listen, I have not listened to the podcast, nor will I, Armin, even though I do listen to most podcasts, right? But apparently, Bob McGinn picking the Green Bay Packers to win. Going to be right one of these years, John. One of these times, the dude's going to be right. He was wrong about you for 13 years, so maybe he'll be right this year in 2024, year of our Lord.
I'm impressed by that. Did he give any? Man, now we've realized covering the Packers all those years, it wasn't the team. It was Mike McCarthy that he was after. It was Mike McCarthy he was trying to take down.
Could have been.
He's just taking my picks. You ever think of that? I mean, maybe I'm picking them to win
true.
too. I mean, maybe that's part of it.
Could have been it. I love it. I just saw it and I'm like, whoa, okay, that's a little bit of a surprise. But hey, you guys going to be right anytime.
Did he get a score too, or just
again? I would have to go through and read and listen, and I'm not going to do that, nor do I want to or care to. But yeah, apparently he's picking the Packers to win. Interesting for some Packers fans who are in the Joe Barry needs to go camp. Our closing poll numbers yesterday from our 9-to-noon Twitter poll of how many points do the Packers need to hold the Cowboys to this weekend to save Joe Barry's job. It ended with just no at 41.8%. 27.8% said just win, baby. Just win. Now, some folks said that they may have been a little bit confused about that, thought that just still said, just win. I don't care about the defensive coordinator situation here. That was 27.8%.
That's interesting.
Shutout, just over 10.5%. Just under 20%, the 10 to 20 point club with a win. Many people that are in the just no category, guys, have their eyes cast towards defensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers, Ejiro Evero, the young man who almost got the job when Joe Barry got it a couple of years ago. Well, the Panthers just blocked the Jaguars' request for him to be the coordinator. They plan on interviewing him for the head coaching role. Man, I would be surprised if they give it to somebody that you don't even name the interim head coach. Maybe that's just me being a little bit too tinfoil hat guy, John. But like, I don't see you giving the main job to somebody that you didn't even entrust the substitute teacher role to, unless maybe I make too much of what the interim coach tag means. Like the Chargers didn't give it to Kellen Moore. They reportedly interviewed him for the head coaching job yesterday. I would find it kind of difficult to believe that you're one of the hot names or the top couple in the running if they didn't entrust you with the position in the first place. Maybe I'm reading too much into it.
Well, you also have to understand that those meetings are about gathering information too. It's not just about hiring your next head coach. So I can imagine, when Kellen Moore gets interviewed by the Chargers, they want to know what went wrong. They want to know what he would have done differently. They want to know the many different things that he saw as pitfalls for that team throughout the course of the season in their struggles, and why if he would have done it his way, things would have been different. And they can use that information and maybe get enamored by he to be the head coach, or just say, hey, mark that down. Mark the tape. We got to roll that when we actually get somebody in here. We got to bring this to his attention. I'll say this: I've seen a lot of people talk about Wink Martindale there in New York as he quit his job for a Packers defensive coordinator, potential candidate if that goes to be Joe Barry at the end of the season. But his defense doesn't match up with the Packers personnel the way that Vero's does. His personnel matches up much better. It's a true kind of 3-4 type atmosphere. So things will be able to be in place much easier than Winks, which Winks will run a version, especially since all teams run sub.
Yeah.
He'll run a version of it, but he likes to have a specific edge guy that he sticks out there as a wide nine. And where are we going to do that? We're going to have guys bumping sides back and forth, doing a lot of movement. That's a lot of communication. There's a lot that goes into that this Packers defense hasn't done already. Vero's is more of a, I won't say seamless, but more of a seamless without being seamless, more of a seamless, closer to that end than it would be Wink.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that part of it, John, because it has been just thought of, at least I think in fan circles, that like everyone's running sub package anyway. Like, does it really matter how different the base of it is? But it's extremely important when you're talking about the personnel that you've been drafting for what, the last 15 years to be running that 3-4 base instead of a 4-3 base. That's a little bit more than comes into it of just like, wow, we sub 1 or 2 guys on it. It'll be okay.
And we talk about nickel, man. I'm going to do a breakdown with Dusty today on Packers Playback.
Yes.
And listen, the Bears chose to play nickel versus 12. They chose to do it. Not a great decision for the Chicago Bears.
Thanks, Matt Eberflus. Appreciate you for that one. I'm fired up for that one. That's going to be coming up. Cheesehead TV YouTube page. If you're already on watching the 97.3 The Game YouTube page of 9-to-Noon, you just flip on over there later on today when that thing gets posted. That is fantastic breakdown of Packers and Bears coming on up with our guy John Kuhn. Armin Sari and I'm Billy Schmidt. We're back right after this. We'll wrap up 9-to-Noon next on The Game.
Watch my future fade away.
going down. I'm yelling timber. You better move. You better dance. Let's make a night. You won't remember. I'll be the one. You won't forget.
All right, wrapping things up here on 9 to Noon. Thanks for everybody that's been watching us on the YouTube page as well as the Twitter page. The Game MKE is how you can find us on X and be able to see that daily. 9-to-noon, you can find it daily, and 97.3 The Game on YouTube will be there as well, hanging out with you from 9 until noon each and every day, usually at 11 a.m., 1 o'clock Central Time during the football season. One man named Aaron Rodgers would join the Pat McAfee show, probably noon, actually, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. And Richard Deitch, who's one of the sports media guys who covers it for The Athletic, just talks all sports media things, said Pat McAfee announced today on his show Aaron Rodgers is done as a guest for the NFL season. From everything I understand, McAfee made this call. He has full creative control and control of guest booking. Obviously, I'm certain ESPN supports this. Now, to be fair, I believe Aaron has ceased his appearances on McAfee once they've been eliminated after the following week. But with all the Jimmy Kimmel nonsense and conversation going around and whatever on earth happened yesterday on that show, ESPN's quite happy, I would assume, that number 8 is not going to be making a weekly appearance on that program for a couple of months.
I mean, let's be honest. The Aaron Rodgers interviews during his MVP seasons, that was a lot of the cachet to the Pat McAfee show.
It was huge.
It brought a big listenership. It's why Sirius picked him up for 2 years and had him on there through that 2-year contract. And it's why ESPN, that's partially why ESPN picked that thing up and decided to go away from a model that they were establishing for themselves. And they really needed that kind of change of pace and see how this would work. And I think it's really fascinating. Now you got Aaron Rodgers coming on there, and many of the people at ESPN have to not love the stuff that he says when he's on their own channels, on their own airwaves. And yet they got to grind their way through it and sledge their way through it and look at the bottom line and see, all right, did the people that tuned into this, do they like it? Do they hate it? Did we go up? Did we go down? Should we get rid of this? And then if we do get rid of this, how does this impact McAfee's show to begin with? Well, I mean, who's going to be MVP this year?
Lamar?
Yeah. Do they go after Lamar next year? Hey, Lamar, come on and talk with Pat for a couple hours.
I mean, I mean, how much? But even
I can't imagine that's going to happen.
I don't think it's just the people on ESPN. Like, I have to wonder how much Pat and his show mates liked it as well. I mean, like, they like having Aaron on, but they didn't want to just talk about vaccines all day, do they? I mean, Pat would try. I don't think Ty Schmidt. I don't think that's what he's into.
Yeah, I think now, and this is where
they didn't have fun with that.
People will get at us politically for this, but like when you still are talking about things that you were right about 2-3 years ago, or you believe you were right about 2-3 years ago, and some people don't believe you're right about 2-3 years ago. At some point, it becomes 2 or 3 years ago, and it's like 5 or 6 years ago. It's like, hey man, can we talk about what's going on now? Right? Like at some point, let's talk about what's happening now instead of in the past, where when you're just bringing up old arguments and things like that. Well, I saw maybe my favorite meme though yesterday was the kid on the swing with the massive fire going on right behind him, and it was just AJ Hawk while Aaron Rodgers is on the Pat McAfee show. Because AJ just sits there and laughs for the most of it. He's like, "This is pretty good for me."
Zabe sent me one. AJ Hawk, 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists.
That's the best job.
29 minutes.
Filled him in with the Tony Snell meme.
Because you're right,
Tony
Billy.
Snell had to get a stray here.
You're right, Billy. I mean, AJ wants to make the best product he can. He doesn't want to go on there and go diving down all these.
I don't think he wants to. No. As much as they like making jokes and like joking how impassioned Aaron is about it, I don't think they really want to get into a COVID conversation in the middle of January 2024.
I mean, that show is always about having fun and sports and just
trash talk
and trash talk, but having a good time. And I think people that like it and that regular sports fan working on a truck maybe every day or a construction site is not that interested after a while in hearing two famous rich guys, have a petty arguing match between each other. I just think that's what even if you agree or take one side or the other, it's like, all right, Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy Kimmel, you're both part of the elite, like rich people that doesn't affect us.
Yeah, not interesting anybody all that much.
That's all I'm saying.
But ESPN though, it's an interesting part for them because you can't say McAfee hasn't made College Game Day at least more interesting to view.
Right.
And I don't know that they can have one or without the other now that they brought them both together.
And I see a lot of reviews, and I see people that love him on College Game Day, and I see people that don't like him. They like traditional pregame shows. And to each their own. Everybody has a different flavor. ESPN is dabbling in this, seeing if they can have different flavors for different people and just have everybody at the table.
They're trying to have a massive ice cream display, and you just grab whatever scoop you want. But that chocolate, vanilla, and cookies and cream is still a classic for a reason, man. You got to have that thing right there in the middle.
Like you like Coke, you like Pepsi, we got both. You like
Armin comes in asking for RC Cola. They're like, go to the Walgreens down the road.
I'm going to say it. I personally love when he sings the fight song and gets everybody in the crowd to sing the fight song with him.
Because that's fun. That is fun, I think.
And Game Day used to always be fun, right? Like it's always been a fun show. I'm a big fan of it. People know that I like McAfee, but
Have you ever gone to a Game Day?
No, I have not. I bet it's a wild.
I went to a basketball one in Marquette, but not football.
I've been to 3 of them. You can never get close enough to have a good time. You got to get there like 7 hours ahead of time, and your sign will never get seen. And it's just, it is.
And you can't even go into the bathroom or get a cold drink.
No, you got to stay there.
Yeah,
you got to stay there the whole time.
Yeah, that's a tough deal. You don't have to stay on the YouTube stream or the X stream all day, but many people did all show, and we're glad that you did. If you stayed on the terrestrial side all day, we appreciate it. If you tapped in for 5-10 minutes, good for you. Make sure you hear more tomorrow, because tomorrow's loaded up. We got your chance to win free food from Osita Farms. Matt Schneidman will make an appearance as well. We get a little bit closer, and I got 2 plays for since we're not picking games, I got 2 plays that I think people should know about going in for You Better You Bet. That'll come up tomorrow on Thursday. For John Kuhn, Armin Sarin, I'm Billy Schmid. It's been 9-2. We'll try to be better tomorrow. You got the game.
Seem to have fun. Don't need friends that act like foes, 'cause I'm raw, face, the one who knows about things that make